Hello, guys and girls, and welcome to episode 109 of the FReality Podcast. This is a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show, live streamed every Saturday on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitch. You can also catch the show live in VR using big screen TV. The show goes live at 7 p.m. in Europe, 6 p.m. in the UK, and 12 midday in central US. You can also check out the audio version, which is available on iTunes, SoundCloud, Anchor, and on Spotify. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback during the show, please put them in the chat. We'll try to answer as many questions as we can. Now it's time for me to introduce you to the team. This week, as we're all wearing our V Respawn jerseys, I thought I'd come up with some nice esports names for us all. So get ready for this.
No. I can't wait.
First up, catch him if you can. He has the speed and agility of a mongoose. It's the Zoomer Zimtok 5. How you doing, man? You're right.
It's me. I was so like, that's so rowdy. That's so rowdy. Yeah. Thanks. And as you all noticed, we have almost matching shirts. I selected a slightly different design when they reached out, and actually I thought we all got the same shirt until about 20 minutes ago when we got together. And so for those who are in the audio podcast, these guys went for the kind of black, dark, and soul design, and I went for the light, white, angelic design because you all know I'm such an angel.
The angel of the podcast, that's right.
Yeah. Obviously.
So next up, this guy has a deadly bite and will consume all that stands in his way. It's the ravenous Rowdy guy. How you doing, man? You all right?
Ravenous Rowdy.
The ravenous. I like that one. The ravenous Rowdy guy. That sounds way better than my own name. I should be ravenous guy.
Ravenous Rowdy.
I'm all right, dude. I'm right. I've only just recovered from OC6, but it's been a busy week for me with the PhD. Finishing up next week. So it's been quite hectic lately. I do everything always last minute. So this is no exception. But yeah, we'll get there eventually.
Good to hear it, man. Good to hear it. Next, this guy will slice and dice you with the finest Dutch steel. It's the ninja. It's Nathie. How you doing, man? You all right?
Yeah, I finally got my sleep schedule back. Took a while, but hey. Yeah.
Lucky you. I'm still struggling actually, because obviously I came home Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday was the day I got home. Yeah. So I've had less time to recover, but I'm slowly starting to get back into the sleep cycle again. Yeah, but I slept a lot since I've been home.
Dude, remember, the time is now.
It is. The time is now. That's what they say.
That was
the time is now.
It took. Yeah, you're using the water jug. It took me a good 5 days to get back to kind of like feeling normal human being again. Whereas you go to California, it's like so easy. It's like overnight you're on their clock because it's just stay up late, which is kind of a natural thing for us gamers to do.
I think I have such a bad sleep pattern that it doesn't matter. I never have a jet lag because I just always sleep badly. So for me, it's like no exception. I came home at
normal.
At like 6 p.m. and I went to sleep for like 14 hours and I woke up and I was like, yeah, I'm all right.
Yeah. So finally, if you don't know who I am, I'm Mike, the host of the show, ruler of the worlds in the virtual wastelands. It's not Mad Mike. No, it's not Mad Max. It is Mad Mike. I messed it up. I messed it up.
I just watched that. I just watched that for the first time ever. Yeah, I did. Yeah. It's cool not the movie I thought it was going to be. It's
Wait, so you watched really the Mad Mike movie or the sequel to that?
I watched Mad Mike movie.
I watch Mad Mike every day.
Oh yeah.
Fury Road. Okay, so we've got an interesting show for you today. Some of the highlights include Beat Saber mods on Quest being shut down. A new slick zombie shooter called The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners will be shuffling its way into VR soon. definitely one to look forward to. Zim's going to give you the lowdown on the latest releases to look forward to next week. And then finally, we're going to round up the show with our hands-on impressions of the HTC Vive Cosmos. You will definitely not want to miss that. So stick around to the end. First of all, let's find out what everyone's been playing this week, their highlight of the week. Feel free to join in the chat as well, by the way. We'd love to read out your games that you've been playing this week as well. But let's start it off with ZimTalk 5 first.
Cool.
How you doing?
I haven't. That's like what my mother calls me. ZimTalk 5. You get to your room. So you know, it's like that having the full name. I don't know. Does that exist in like non-English languages as well? I'm just curious because, like, you know, like the full name. Like if you're American, for instance, you'll have a middle name, and so you know you're in trouble if either of your parents start calling you, you know, first, second, third name, like the full thing. So if I hear ZimTalk 5 coming down the corridor, you know, I know I'm in trouble.
You know you're in deep doo-doo, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this week. Go on.
No, we have middle names, but we don't really use them.
Oh, okay. Like even in that situation, like where you're in trouble.
No, my parents all of a sudden go, Valentinus? No.
Valentinus. Is that your middle name?
I have multiple middle names.
Oh,
come on then, Rowdy.
Are you going to tell us?
My full middle names are Johannes, Gislanus, Valentinus, and those are it.
That's
my word! It sounds like some sort of Greek god.
You need to wear like leather sandals. You need to wear leather sandals and walk around with like one of those 300 suits on. You know,
and you guys don't do that. That's my every Sunday.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I'm not surprised at all.
Wow.
So to answer your question, Mike, I feel like firstly I know it's not been that long because we just were together at OC just last week, but it feels like it's been a month. So I'm glad to be back in the driving seat here. And in terms of what I played, I had a dev team ping me with a PDF with some links in it that I kind of ignored for a couple of days, and I was like, right. And then I opened them and I looked at the video trailer and I'm like, oh shit, why am I looking at a VR Sea of Thieves and that I haven't played? So I actually got to play a game called De Leon Legends, which is currently in alpha. There's a Kickstarter. The Kickstarter value is only like £16,000 or $20,000, and they are only like 500 quid subscribed. I just ran the stream for this today, just did an hour and a half in it, and holy shit, it's everything that Battle Wake got wrong. There isn't a HUD at all. Your menu system is a book that you can page through page by page with your finger. The texturing in the game is great. The rolling seas, you're on a boat. You can get your boat and like run it into a sandbar, and then you have to kind of work the boat off. You actually have mechanics like a 2x4 with nails in it, and you have to actually hammer it in, and it stays where you put it. And then you have chiseling, for instance. So you'll get a piece of rock, and you can take a metal chisel and pound away at it, and the pounding mechanics are great. And then it can show you some ore. There's something similar with wood where you can carve these little like chess figurines, and then they've got fire. Like they do so many things right. It's a 2-person team who's developing this out of Colorado, and I'm just like, holy cow! They need to like, you know, and sailing. You have to sail. You sail on these big rolling waves, and it takes time, and you get to a place, and they've got crows that attack you like out of the birds. I mean, this thing in a nutshell is definitely appetizing me in a way that Battle Wake did not. So look forward to it. I think not many people know about this. They only just...
How's it called?
De Leon, DeLeon Legends. I'll put it in chat for people who want to try and find it. It's something that I think you should definitely check out.
And it's on Kickstarter right now. They're kickstarting the campaign.
Yeah, they just launched their Kickstarter. The kind of sad story behind it is I think they approached each of the platforms, as far as I understand, and they basically pitched to them and said, hey, we've got this cool idea, but I don't think they got funding from anybody. So now they're going to crowdfund it. You know, they've been backing it themselves. It looks amazing. Swift and Deadly says, watched the stream this morning and already backed it. Good on you, Swift and Deadly. I don't back many Kickstarter games, and this one I'm very tempted to. It's I think $35 for the full digital release. You can do the kind of support them backer for $10. I just recommend guys check it out. When you see the trailer for this, It's fantastic. Maybe I'll dig it up and roll it there in a moment. Just so people can get a flavor
you can
for
play
it.
this. You can play this with 2 eyes, or is it only for one-eyed?
Cute.
Pirates.
Cute. No, it's
Nice.
a 2-eyed,
Nice.
a single player game. So it's not a multiplayer game. So whereas Battle Wake, Servios' title, will, scratch the itch of, if you want to go multiplayer with your friends or whatever, but it's quite arcadey. This is like a C simmer, which is good for old
Nice.
Zimmer. There you go.
I love it when these relatively unknown titles come to the surface on the show. I always end up going and looking these games up, so I really appreciate that. So let's pass it over to Rowdy then. What have you been up to, dude, since you've been home?
So I finally got to try out Vader Immortal. I mean, the second episode. Since we all were at OC6 when it came out, so we didn't actually have a chance to try it. So I actually dove back into it expecting a whole lot. And I have to say, it's good. It's again good, but it does feel like a little bit like, when you have a trilogy of movies, this feels like a little bit like the dip in it, before to like, it's more like something that is necessary as a build up to the third one. Well, the first one was a really nice, it set the scene right. It was like an intricate story. The level design was beautiful. While with this, although they have cool things, like you can use the Force, it feels a little bit lacking with like in parts that the first one really shown was like, I still think the story is really good. The storyline is very narrative, is very like engaging. The interaction with the characters is still great. You get to know Vader a lot more personal, so I like that. But I feel like the Force could have been used more. It feels like the only thing you can do is push and pull. I would have liked to strangle people, like use lightning or like something that is like more like the Star Wars universe, like that. Although I have to say the push and pull mechanics that they use, they're very good. Since also like the movement of your hand also like differs on like what happens with the objects that you're lifting. So I did like that, and also I found like a bit of a shame that you did get a lightsaber, but there's not really like a huge fight in there. I mean, there's a fight in there, but you use mostly the Force for it, and you don't have like like deflecting lasers and that kind of stuff that you had to do in the first one. I'm only talking about the storyline now, not the dojo. I haven't tried out.
Sure.
So it's good. It's still good, but it's short. It's like maybe 30 minutes, and it feels like a little bit like a dip in the story, like like the dip before it, like it's really like a build up to the third episode.
Okay, interesting. And did you try this one as well, Zim?
Yeah, so I mean, I still only did what I reported last week was kind of that first 10 minutes, so I've not finished it yet. But I was so impressed with it. Just that the beginning was way more cinematic, and the Force powers worked in a way that I wasn't expecting. It was less button pushy and more hand gesture, and I was like, that's smart. It actually makes you feel like you're using it a bit better. You actually feel in control of the Force powers, whereas I think in the first game just felt like on rails, and this one, to me, I felt more in the seat because of how they introduced it. So we'll see how the rest links. But that's what I saw on Reddit as well. What Rowdy's saying, that this feels like the bridge between the two, and this is the part where I'm clearly not Star Warsy enough of a fan, but the original trilogy, the middle film. Someone's gonna fill
Empire
in.
Strikes Back.
Empire Strikes Back.
Was it?
Of which trilogy?
The original trilogy.
Yeah.
What was the middle film called?
It was Empire Strikes Back, and then it was Return of the Jedi, right?
Yeah. So Empire Strikes Back, I think, was the bridging one in that. So yeah.
Right.
Maybe they're just following suit.
I think I've been waiting to play this, obviously, because like you say, we were all away when it came out. But I'm planning to play it either tomorrow or Monday. I'm going to do a video on it, of course, because I'll show you quickly why.
You got a lightsaber. What the heck are these?
Yeah, I saw that.
What is that?
So this guy at OC6 approached me with these grips. They're called axe grips. You can buy I think you can buy these online already. There's a website. I think it's like logicgrip.com or something like that. And basically they've got magnets on them, so they clip together like this, so they're held in place. So when you hold a lightsaber in the game, it's supposed to feel a bit more natural because they're stacked one on top of the other. So you can do it either way, by the way.
How do those sit on a table then? Like, what's the resting position? They just sit flat. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to trying these out to see if it adds anything to the game, So I think that's the only game that I can really think of that something like this would be useful for. But if it makes that experience really cool, then
Beat Saber, like the one hand mode that you can play, or like is it?
Or maybe if you did like
like that
dual Darth,
you
gotta be a real pro if you wanna.
Darth Maul mode.
That's kind of so not what I was. When I saw you flash them on scene, I thought it was going to give some like more balance to the controllers because not that the controllers feel imbalanced, but they feel a bit like they want to go top heavy a little bit. Not like the Vive
like
ones.
extending the grip, you mean? On the
Yeah,
back end.
well, one of the things that people complain about with the new touch controllers compared to the old ones is that their length for someone with long hands isn't enough, and your hand is like closing, and it's just not comfortable for people with large hands. To get around that, I use the ProTube extenders, which work, but Mike's got them on screen. It looks like it actually would solve that problem. You said they're called Axe, Mike? AXE?
Yeah, I'll make sure I put like a pinned comment in the video afterwards, so you can check out the link to their website. But yeah, I'm looking forward to trying that with Vader Immortal to see if they add anything to the experience.
ProTube guys jump in and said, "I came in at the right moment," as Mike is showing off the connectors. Yeah. That's cool.
What about you, Nathie? What have you played? Have you played much since you've been home?
No, I have not been playing much since I was home. I've been, rambling about the Oculus Link. I've been talking, of course, about the Vive Cosmos 2. But luckily in the chat, we do have some people that, backed us up while we were, trying to revive ourselves after this crazy event. So first of all, we have Dave the Psycho, and he played Sorrento multiplayer. I'm very happy the devs love this game just as much as the players. Well, that's very important, because updates are everything. I think Sorrento is still getting worked on, so that's nice. And then we have Eric Hartley, who played Vader Immortal 2 as well, a bit of Dreadhalls on Quest, and Dash World, another card game.
Is that a VR game? Dash World. I've never heard of it.
Yeah, but I don't think it's out yet. It's like this test period they're in, but I don't think it comes close to the Critter Cards game. Sorry. Next we have Paradise DK, who tried the new Cartoon Network VR experience called Journey, and he says it's free on Steam. I can't tell you anything else, but hey, Cartoon Network is lit as fuck, And then we have Watto UK, and he played a small amount of No Man's Sky, a medium helping of No Man's Sky, followed by a large helping of No Man's Sky. So much No Man's Sky that I had to charge my index controllers 4 times this week.
Wow, dude, I wish I had the time to play No Man's Sky that much. I really do. Nice one.
Oh, so the index controllers. Sorry, I'm interrupting there, Mike. Index controllers, they're only an internal rechargeable battery?
Yeah.
I'm so glad I don't have them. Okay.
Yeah, it's a good thing and a bad thing. You're right, though. But when you're in the middle of a game and you want to carry on playing, that sucks. Yeah.
Is there a connector to charge them from a battery pack?
You could, but
I've never seen someone do that, but yeah, you can. That's interesting.
I've done it before with my Move controllers. I've done it before with my Move controllers with a battery in each pocket and wires coming out, like I'm some kind of bomber. Yeah.
Hey, if you played with Hydras, you can never complain, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. OG.
Anyways, my highlight is just the same as Rowdy. It's been Vader Immortal. It's the only thing I played. I think I can talk a little bit more about why it felt like that, because what I noticed is that the trailer that they launched at Oculus Connect was giving you a certain sense of what you were going to do, but then in the end it wasn't like that. Where as you may know, in the first one you start to get into this fortress of Darth Vader, and then you get to meet him, etc. But then you think that in the second one you're gonna have more screen time with the man, right? Well, that's not true. It's like before you get into it, he's already gone. He's like, oh, hey, you know what? Bye, I'm out. And I was like, this is gonna be awesome, right? We can finally play a game where you join the dark side and you got to crawl into the mind of, a Sith Lord. But in the end, that doesn't happen. So that was one of the things I thought was kind of disappointing. And besides that, it was more you enjoying the scenery this time than playing. So you got to play less and you got to hear more about the story. And as Rowdy said, it felt like they had to explain a lot. They had to really catch up with you, like, okay, this is what's happening, this is what you need to know, and this is how you feel like, etc. So yeah, it wasn't like the first one where you got to have a lot of lightsaber battles where you had to do a lot of parkouring. it was kind of short in that sense. Funny enough, I did check how long the first one was compared to the second one, and they come close to each other. It just depends on how you play it. In my case,
You know what also makes a difference? Because I forgot to mention that. It's the difference in level design. Like if you look at the first one, you start in a ship, then you arrive in the hangar, you're in a jail, you get out of the jail. You know, you have so many different kind of levels that you go through. Well, this one kind of happens all in like a similar kind of area. You maybe have
small
like 2
space,
or 3 different areas, smaller spaces. You don't get that size effect really. So I think that like plays it with it as well, that it makes it feel just shorter because you don't progress through it.
I think it also depends on, like, everyone plays a game in a different way. I'm usually, if I see a nice, you know, structure or something super impressive, I'm usually enjoying it longer with my eyes before I go to the next part. I'm sure that some people also just speed run through it. It's like, okay, you know, Vader, whatever you have to say, let me just play more, and whatever this character is doing, I don't care. Let me just, you know, use the Force. I mean, some people do that, in this case, you know, that could mean that you finish it in like 30 minutes. I think I, you know, enjoyed it for about 40 minutes, but that was because, of course, I make a video and I'm, you know, looking around a bit more. I give some more time to really, you know, show people what it's like. But they put the same price tag on it. I thought it could have been a little cheaper. Just because there wasn't that much going on compared to the first one. I did see some people also put that in their reviews, and they're right. I mean, having Star Wars in the title of your game doesn't mean you should charge, you know, but they, in the end, they don't have to, because if you played episode 1, you want to know what happens next, so you're going to pay for it anyways. And I don't think stuff like this is not gonna get into a sale that quickly. I think this is gonna stay that price, because we're talking about, how much was it? I think 10 euros. I don't know how much it is, like $15, right? Is that kind of what we're talking about? I don't know the exact price, but they both have the same tag on them.
But visually, it is stunning though. Like it's really beautiful still.
I think the key to the game though is, like, they add the replayability through the dojo.
Yeah, but that's well, I tried the dojo, and in the first episode you got to go to 3 locations. In this one there's only 1. It's like there was less effort put into it, or I don't know. It feels a bit short, a bit rushed in a way.
They've got you hooked in there, and then they can just kind of...
I think what they could have done in the end was they could have given you at least 5 to 10 more minutes of, let's say, gameplay or screen time, because then it would have matched up. But in this case, after the credits rolled, I was like, wait, is this it? And is this what you pay for? Well, in the first episode, I was like, awesome, I want to play more, I'm hungry, I'm curious, what is going to happen? But in this one, I started to question,
I think
is this worth the price?
We're all similar gamers, though, in that, you know, you magnetically attract to the campaign. How much did you play Dojo in the first one? Have you touched the Dojo in the second one? Chad is kind of saying they think for the $10 entry price, it's worth it for the Dojo alone, and that the icing on the cake was really the campaign. But for me, in the first game, I don't think I touched the kind of extra play as long as you want content, and the same thing is true on this one. So I definitely have to check it out now.
So I played a lot of the dojo on the first one. I was actually aiming to get all of the medals so I can unlock some of the stuff for your Oculus Home, which I thought was a really cool concept, because I was a big fan of, like, achievements and stuff, like in the Xbox era. So, and it's that kind of, like, reward that drives me to play a game more. So I think Oculus could do more with achievements in the future, in fact, and especially unlocking home content around a game. I think is a super smart idea. But yeah, I really enjoyed the dojo, and like the people in chat said, there were parts of that I actually enjoyed more than the campaign, but it'll be interesting. Like, I'm looking forward to playing it regardless, but I think, like you guys say,
it's not disappointing. Kind of like what you get is not disappointing. It's just like it's over too quickly, where you were like, hey, I could have used my controllers a little more. But it's nice to also just, you know, chill and enjoy these beautiful, you know, like, I played it on Quest, and it still blows my mind how well it looks and how well it runs. Of course, you sometimes hear the audio crackle a little bit, or this little frame drop. You're like, please just let me, you know, enjoy this a little bit longer. But it's still super, like, you know, performance wise, it just runs. It does the trick.
I'm actually planning on playing it on Quest 2, actually. So
You're
yeah,
a brave soul, my friend.
Tomorrow
Brave
or
soul.
Monday.
Wait, Oculus sent you a Quest 2 already? Jeez, Mike. Jeez.
So this game, you're all going to be super jealous. You're all going to be super jealous about this game, let me tell you. So I was looking for stuff to play yesterday. I played a few bits and pieces I can't necessarily talk about, but this one really stood out for me. And I just have to mention it on the show. It's called, get ready for this, Beach Body Bros.
Oh, no. No. Are
Are we really going?
I am
Jesus Christ.
So,
please go on.
So I had no idea what to expect. I just downloaded it and just tried it. And basically, it's a short 4-minute experience where you're lifting weights on a beach to become a beach body bro. So you start off, you're like this really skinny avatar. You can see yourself in the mirror. And then this beach bro called Chad, which is the best name ever, by the way. He comes up to you and gives you some dumbbells. And you start lifting them, right? And you know, like in games like Red Matter, which we talked about a lot on the show before, where you go up to a big like space bulkhead door and you've got that big lever and you have to like pull it, and it adds that kind of resistance to the controllers, so it feels heavy. They do that in this as well. So the dumbbells have got resistance to them, so you can barely lift them with your little like weak arms. And then eventually, as you keep like lifting them, the resistance gets easier and easier. So eventually you're like being able to swing them around really fast. And then he's like, yeah, you're done with those now. Let's get some heavy ones. So it keeps on doing this. Keep getting bigger dumbbells, moving through this like beach environment. And as you're moving through it, there's these other beach bros doing like different exercises and poses, and they're giving you compliments like, hey dude, like, you know, your guns are looking sick and all this kind of stuff. It's got this like 80s like retro synth track in the background. And by the end of it, you're like this jacked dude. Finally made it as a beach bro yourself, and you get to pull all these like muscle poses. And I just thought it was hilarious. It just made me laugh the whole way through. And this experience is made by, it's actually made using Oculus Medium. The whole thing was made by using Medium.
Yep.
And it's made by Tyler Hurd. So he's the same guy that brought you Butts and Chocolate, which are also short VR experiences
Short
that
and
are kind of fun.
crazy. Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of my highlight. Obviously I haven't been back for very long. I haven't tried much, but that was really funny. And I just thought if you're going to demo some VR to friends and family, maybe chuck this one in there, because like I say, it's free. It's on the Oculus Store and it's on Steam VR. Yeah. And just to watch them like pretend to work out and then like do all these like muscle poses at the end would just be hilarious. So that's why I'd recommend it.
Sounds like it's right up my alley.
Grandma loves it.
I think it's awesome what he's making. He's always putting the person who plays the game into the spotlight or the experience. Because in Chocolate, you could see yourself too, and you were dancing with all these characters, and then you got this huge like champagne bottle that you could like, you know, pop, and then all these cats were dancing in the clouds, like this trippy experience. I think Chocolate is free too. I don't think Butts is free though. I think you had to pay for it. I'm not sure.
But initially it was free, and then when they released it on Steam, it became not free. It's like a $1 or $2. It's not expensive.
But he's very good at, you know, interacting. Like you interact with yourself in the end. And
exactly.
Never heard of Chocolate though. What kind of title is it?
It's like a dancing experience. You just dance and you enjoy the music
with space cats.
Yeah, it's like being in an interactive music video. Basically, that's what it's like. It's cool. But yeah, so that is Beach Body Bros, my highlight of the week this week.
Wow.
So let's get into, well, actually, no, before we get into the news, I wanted to give a quick shout out to Vivian and the team at V Respawn, who kindly made us these awesome V Respawn jerseys, by the way. They've all got like our names on the back, which is super nice. We got to meet the team and Vivian at Oculus Connect, so it was really cool to hang out with some of them, get to know them a little bit better. I think it was just a shame that those guys and girls out there didn't get to really show off their skills, you know, because there was no esports at Oculus Connect, so they couldn't show us how it was done in games like Onward and Echo Arena. But I will say, you know, if you're interested in VR esports, check out their website. They've got like the latest news and guides, and also an event calendar, so you can find out when all these VR esports events are going on, and also you can buy these cool jerseys customized if you want as well. So check that out, vrespawn.com. So thanks to them.
Wow. So that means I can buy a jersey with your name on there. So if I'm a big fan of the Mike himself, I can just walk around with your name. It's like a soccer shirt, right? Like...
Sure, if you want to do that, yeah.
Awesome.
If you do that, send me a picture. I'd love to see.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to go. But no, I think Nathie's right. Like, I mean, the funny thing is that every one of these events we've had some kind of esports push. And actually, in the first year that I was there, which is OC4, it was a massive push. I mean, they literally herded all of Oculus Connect to like the main stage to kind of show this stuff off.
Did you see that like trophy they got to win?
Oh yeah,
So
massive,
freaking epic, and they had these red lights on them. It was like this crystallized thing. Epic.
It was like way before its time, And the thing I kind of said to somebody when we were recounting this about the event was, it's a bit like having a bunch of Olympians walking around, but no Olympics.
Exactly. Yeah, it was a missed opportunity there for sure.
Yeah.
And I hope that in future OCs they learn from this and realize that bringing these guys to their show really adds some value to the whole Connect experience.
Yeah, I definitely think there's people that are not going to go next year because they actually came this year to see the esports and there was nothing there.
Yeah.
So I think they're making the assumption that they won't be there anymore.
And something I've been thinking about after our adventures at OC6. Maybe it would be something to consider to have a gaming event next to Oculus Connect and just split it up in a way. But I don't know if it's too early maybe for that. But I think esports should still have a place somewhere. And if that's next door, then I would be down for that.
Yeah, I think you made a valid point while we did the podcast last week that if Oculus aren't careful, then people will capitalize on the fact that all these VR people are in one space and do something nearby that does something maybe a little bit more interesting. But anyway,
it's pretty normal from these kind of conventions. That type of stuff spawning around, it's just going to happen.
Yeah.
It's
just that's what Nathie says.
It's just strange to see like how invested like Oculus themselves is into esports, not to feature it then at Oculus Connect.
Like I'm sure like VR esports in the future is going to be huge because there is something magical about watching someone who's got the physicality to do this as well. Like it's not just your fingers or your wrist movements playing a mouse. It's your physical actions. So that's the magic. Anyway.
No, but esports players never die. They respawn.
Exactly.
They respawn.
Yeah. So let's get into the news then. First bit of news this week is an exciting one, and this is about The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. Now, we talked about this game a long time ago when it was first announced.
I was checking it. I was like, whoa, we talked about this before. I couldn't even remember that we did.
Yeah, we did. And I'd forgotten all about this game until this trailer dropped this week. Yeah. So just to sort of clear some confusion up, because this isn't to be confused with the other VR Walking Dead game, which is called The Walking Dead Onslaught, which is being developed by Survios.
Why do we have two separate Walking Dead games?
Yeah.
I'm so confused by the IP.
Sounds like the IP is for sale at the moment for a cheap price, maybe.
Maybe. But this is The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, and this is being developed by Skybound and Skydance Interactive. Now, Skydance are the same team that developed the mech shooter Archangel, which came out quite a while ago now, maybe about a year ago. But this trailer, I have to say, when I watched it, I was like, hell yeah, this looks super slick. Like, it's one of those trailers that you would get for a traditional game. It's mainly CGI, doesn't really show any gameplay, but it gives a good indication of the kind of story and sort of narrative that they want to go with this. And I thought it was really interesting. And really, it's such a good trailer, in fact, that I think they should have shown this on the Oculus keynote. It would have been a game to get people hyped, for sure. Like, what is this all about?
But actually, I see I'm the opposite. I think the trailer is pretty naff compared to the gameplay. The gameplay trailer is way better.
I agree with you in part because, I mean, the gameplay itself is interesting, but the trailer is good, though, in terms of captivating energy and story.
Gives you a narrative.
In general, these trailers sell more copies than most players. They just get hyped over CGI trailers more than gameplay. That's just a fact. But yeah, after seeing the gameplay, I don't know if we can also show that, but it looks super, super neat. Does.
Yeah, but you're totally right. Like after I watched the trailer, I was like, okay, you've got me hooked now, but now I want to see gameplay, and that's where I found it, and that's what we're probably going to be showing you very shortly. It's some pre-alpha footage of actual gameplay from the game, and this was uploaded by a YouTube channel called GOG Connected. And yeah, they had like 9 minutes of pre-alpha footage.
Yeah.
But from the gameplay, it really shows that this is going to be like an open world style game with like inventory management, with a backpack, survival, crafting, upgrades, and like Zim mentioned earlier with this pirate game, no HUD. You've actually got like a little a cookbook, a scrap cookbook that you've written some notes in, and they're your sort of checklist of your missions, which is super smart. And certainly, I think although you said there, Nathie, like, do we need 2 Walking Dead games in VR being developed at the same time? I think from all of us that have played The Walking Dead Onslaught, because I think we've all played it now, I think we all felt that game was pretty arcadey.
I haven't played it yet.
And that was a lot of our okay.
Yeah.
Well, that was a lot of our criticism towards that game. Whereas this, it looks like the kind of game that we actually wanted: more stripped back, no HUD, more open world environment.
Yeah.
But also, a big criticism I had of Onslaught was that, of course, the zombies in The Walking Dead are deadly, but the biggest threat in The Walking Dead as a TV show wasn't the zombies. It was always the other people that you encountered, because you never knew if they were friendly or not, and they were often the most dangerous people. Yeah. And this is where they're really focusing on the saints and sinners, is that you're encountering other survivors and you get to interact with them and have these dialogue trees, a bit like the Telltale Walking Dead series, which I personally really loved. And it's also got that similar sort of cel-shaded, cartoony art style to it as well. So
smart, it's smart to do that, because it works so well in virtual reality, and you have less effort in displaying it on the screen.
Yeah, so if you paid attention in the thumbnail of this episode, I put Dead Island in there. It's not Saints and Sinners, because it reminds me a lot of Dead Island, and I'm still not sure if Dead Island 2 is ever going to come out, but this kind of gave me those vibes. And it also felt open world, where the Servios title is more of a point-to-point game.
Yeah,
yes.
And yeah, so we'll see. I don't know what comes out, but if they, let's say, launch at the same time, they're definitely going to compete. But in the end, marketing is also a big point, and Servios usually is killing it in that sense. But we'll see. I don't know. Archangel was pretty good.
It was,
and Skydance, I think Skydance is a developer, but they are also this big TV channel thing. I don't know what they are exactly, but it's like they outsource this. They don't always make games, they also do other stuff. They're like a media company.
Yeah. They're like a production studio.
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly.
What I really liked is like what you highlighted as well, like the immersion that they're like going for. It's like not just like taking a mat pack out of your backpack and then applying it on your body. No, you actually have to like physically swirl around your arm. Those kind of mechanics I really, really enjoy. And then I saw like that there were also like 3 dialogues. So depending on like the conversation you were holding, it could go either direction. You have quests, you have factions, because I could see that there were like your infamy has increased with a certain faction.
Right.
Or like those kind of things are really cool for like having how you said it, like a longer term gameplay. Like it extends the gameplay so much more, and then just the level of immersion that they're showing, not only in the fights but also the reloading mechanics, the shooting of the guns, and then so much beyond, like the the crafting, or like the mat pack thing, the backpack thing. Like I really enjoy that.
I like that they're not subtle. You know what I mean? Like this is like the Walking Dead Telltale series. When you're selecting dialogue, but in the Telltale series there were aspects where you had to saw an arm off or something, and here they're not shying away from, as they show in both the CGI trailer and in the gameplay footage, axing things in the head, gore, grabbing someone's skull and taking a gun to it, and all that happens thereafter. Like I think I love seeing the adult nature of this game coupled with its kind of cartoony style. I think it works really well. I'm very excited for it.
Talking about that, like the physics in this one are, from what I can see, I still need to try it, of course, but is very impressive, where you have a baseball bat, you hit the zombie, but it's not like you go straight through the zombie. You have some, like there is an actual skull there, and it feels like there is, some swing to it. Yeah, and when I keep comparing it to Onslaught, because I mean we have 2 Walking Dead games coming out now, so it's the only way to go. In the one from Servios, you were just slashing straight through them. It was kind of you could just go all over
Effortless.
the place. But again, it's an arcadey approach.
But didn't they
and
have
this one is more...
didn't they have a visceral feedback system as well?
Yeah,
they did.
But
they also
always go straight through a zombie if you wanted to. Where here, it feels like you have to use a bed, for example, like 2-3 times before you really get through a head. Well, there was like one and done.
And I know with the Onslaught, they also did have that mechanic where your knife does get stuck in their head. So it does have some similar mechanics, but it's going to be interesting, I think, which one will do better in the long run with the sort of mainstream VR crowd. But this one, I can't remember if we have a release date for the Servios one, Onslaught, but this one is coming out in January next year. So definitely one to keep an eye out for, but I think it looks great from these first impressions.
And there's a question here from Kaz and Cherry asking, I suppose you were picking the same one up, Rowdy, which is whether or not the characters from the show appear in this. And as far as I can tell from the trailers, I think the answer is no. So they're definitely taking different roads, this and the Servios game.
Yeah, and personally, I prefer that because, if you watch the TV show, you know their story and you want to just watch their story. Exactly. And I think, it's cool, like in Onslaught, you can be them if you want to. But personally, I really enjoyed the Telltale games because it wasn't anything to do with the main show.
I think that, I'm not sure, but I think that Saints and Sinners is a game that, in the end, Skydance is going to make because they want to. They got the IP and they can be kind of free within certain boundaries. And with Servios, they are usually the one that takes this, offer. So I'm sure that same with, Westworld, they get asked to make a game. So it's them just delivering a product and they just do what the client wants. And I think the same with AMC happened because they are preparing, obviously, for the next season to promote it. So that game, and specifically the Onslaught one, is made to get people, to HBO. Well, this one seems to be more of a game because they want to have this game around. You know what I mean? So I think there's a different purpose for every game there.
Yeah. Also, do you think at the ending of the video that they're kind of like teasing usable vehicles?
Oh, I didn't. In the gameplay, yeah?
In the gameplay,
possibly.
like he turns around and there's like some kind of like weird like homemade vehicle or something that is standing there. I was wondering if that was like a usable vehicle or that would be interesting.
You mean like that's like the RV? Is that what you're pointing at?
I don't know what it is exactly. It looks like something that he's walking towards.
If Skydance is listening to the show or watching and they want to give us some awesome exclusives to share with people here, then I mean we're down. I'm sure we are. Also, what do UK says in the chat? Kill those Freddies.
Yeah. There's one other thing I just want to mention about Walking Dead as an IP is that for those who haven't played it, there's a great AR Walking Dead game that kind of came out about a year after the whole kind of Pokemon Go craze, maybe a year and a half. And that was actually a really solid AR title. Now they're pushing into VR, and I love their website, vrwalkingdead.com. I mean, they're really pushing all fronts here. And to have a TV show IP do that is a bit of a surprise. I can't tell you another one. I mean, obviously Nathie, you were just mentioning about what Servios picked up with the other title as well, but this is neat to see. Large IPs taking a bid on new technology.
It's also great to see these games usually getting posted to the Facebook page of AMC and their Twitter, and it's definitely a push for VR once again.
Yeah, totally agreed. So we've got two Walking Dead games to look forward to. Onslaught and the one we just mentioned, Saints and Sinners. Next up, bit of news is about the upcoming Iron Man game from the team at Camouflage, who have been working closely with Marvel on this one. In this game, you'll get to take the role of Tony Stark and get to control the legendary Iron Man suit using the PSVR move controllers. And this game, it looks like it's going to be much, much more than just an Iron Man branded wave shooter. It's got like an original story. The game's been in development for over 3 years now. And from the story, from what I've read, it seems kind of interesting. You're going to be up against a new villain that we've not seen before, unless you read the Iron Man comics. The villain is known as Ghost, and they were a witness to like the damage caused by Stark-made weaponry years prior to this story. So Ghost's fight against Tony Stark and Iron Man is both ideological and personal, and because of that, Tony has to take a look back at his past and think about the decisions that he made on and off the battlefield. So it looks It looks cool.
Yeah.
I really like the look of this game. You got to play it, right, Nathie?
I did get to play it, yeah, at Gamescom, and yeah, it's great. It's great to be able to step into the suit of Iron Man. You have this HUD that totally makes sense in this title. Usually you're annoyed by all the information in there, but this time it's like, oh yeah, you can hear your suit going around your body, and then suddenly the mask goes over your head, and then you see this beautiful island, this place where Tony Stark lives, and you get to explore his mansion a bit and talk to Pepper. Yeah, it's amazing, and I'm very excited for it. The new trailer that I think they launched yesterday shows a lot of more gameplay, and I'm happy because first we weren't sure what it was going to be, and now it's like, oh wait, so there's this one mission where a plane is about to crash, and you gotta put down the fire that got caused, and then save some people that are still in there. And then other moment it's like, oh, there's like an attack of robots, and so you have like different types of things to do. It's like a puzzler in a way. You gotta shoot. You gotta do a bit of parkouring, and yeah, it's good that they mixed it up, because if you think about it, what can you do as Iron Man? After a while, you're maybe kind of running out of ideas. But it seems like they went very creative, and I'm curious. I'm curious for the full title.
Also, I think as well, like it's great. It's great to be like actually Tony Stark outside of the suit as well. Like I like that they showed that in the original trailer.
Yes, yes.
Also, on a side note, I always like how PlayStation like portrays people wearing a virtual reality headset. I love how they do that with that translucent kind of like thing that like you can still see their eyes. It's so well done. Like I really like that.
I don't see anyone else do that. Did you guys ever see HTC or an Oculus or anyone else portray it that way? I don't think so. It's still a little bit weird, but it does make more sense from, let's say, if you see this for the first time, you never tried VR. I think it's way better to understand what's happening. And
but I think that's why they do it, because it makes people who never tried VR like a little bit more clear, like how this thing works. You can still see their face.
Yes.
So
it's also a fair representation, I feel, Rowdy, of the actual experience, because if you think about the journey as an end user, you go from being able to see the world to being able to see another world. So it's not this idea like, oh, I'm gonna go ahead and block my eyes, like that's which is what every other kind of advertisement represents.
So according to Chris Richardson, this is just a lesson for everyone who has not read the comics. Ghost was a baddie in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
I thought it was Ghost from Call of Duty for a second. I don't know why, but
sadly he got killed, dude. Spoiler, sorry. But this week we actually got a release date for Iron Man. It's going to be launching on the 28th of February next year, and it's going to be exclusive to the PSVR.
That's surprising, right? Because I thought it was going to be Christmas.
Same.
Pushed back.
Same. But while we're on the subject of Marvel, kind of leads us nicely onto our next bit of news this week, and that is from The Void and ILM X Lab. Now, if you're not familiar with The Void, it's a series of location-based VR experiences, mainly in locations across like the US and Canada. They did have a pop-up in London for a very brief time, but it's not there anymore, sadly. But you get to go into these experiences as a group. It's a group thing. So you go in with friends and family, up to 4 players in total, and you get to experience a unique virtual reality experience that you can't experience anywhere else. They feature full body tracking. You have like wind, heat, vibration, physical items that you have to use and manipulate in the game world as well. And it really does make for an immersive and impressive VR experience. I think we've all tried it now, right? We've all tried The Void.
It's the heat. It's the heat that did me. Like that part of my brain. I don't think I've ever been in a VR experience before where like you're that was the Star Wars one, looking over lava, and I knew myself. It's kind of like the people who you filmed doing the Richie's Plank experience, Mike. You know yourself when you were up against the mental wall of, I will not step over there, just in case that's actually real lava.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. And this was the Star Wars Secrets of the Empire experience, which was one of their most popular ones, I think. But there's a part where you open up to the world of Mustafar, which is featured obviously in Vader Immortal a lot. And this takes place before the events of Vader Immortal. But like you say, the doors open of your little spaceship and the lava world is there. And we all just kind of looked at each other and was like, who's going to step out first? Because it's not going to be me. Amongst the 4 stormtroopers that were playing the experience.
And don't forget about the smell too. Like you can smell what's going on. You can smell the fear.
I could smell Beat Saber in there for sure. I definitely smelled some Beat Saber.
So alongside Star Wars, the Void also have experiences for Wreck-It Ralph, Ghostbusters, and also a horror one that Nathie is going to try out called Nicodemus.
I promised that.
Nicodemus, Jesus.
Yeah. But they've announced a new experience.
Sorry, I'm hung up on Nicodemus. It sounds like Nostradamus is working on patches, nicotine patches. It's Nicodemus.
Yeah.
You know, he's just there.
Nicodemus.
Can't get enough.
Yeah. I'm sure there's I'm sure there's like a legend behind that name, but I don't know what it is, sadly. But this new experience that they announced this week, because they've been teasing that it's going to be like a Marvel IP. Well, we finally know what it is, and it's called Avengers Damage Control. Now, in this experience, it seems like you're going to be controlling a brand new prototype suit, which has been designed by Shuri, who's, if you've seen Black Panther, she was like the scientist in Wakanda that kind of developed a lot of the technologies. She was like the badass kind of scientist in the background. Well, basically, she's designed this new suit, and it's a cross between the Black Panther suit and the Iron Man suit. So it's got like elements of both, which kind of looks unique. And basically, you suit up wearing these suits, and you're fighting an enemy that's trying to take this technology from you. And in this experience, you're going to be fighting alongside, obviously, you as your teammates who are all wearing these suits, but also alongside some of the favorite Avengers like Doctor Strange, Wasp, Ant-Man, and more to kind of stop this before the world goes to crap.
So that would mean that if you enter the Void, you get to pick a card like they did with Wreck-It Ralph, because when I went to Los Angeles, I tried Wreck-It Ralph, and they let you pick a card. And it was like, okay, just pick one, and then you got like a random one, and that's the character you were going to play. So I think they're gonna let you, choose who you want to play. But I do wonder, if you mention Iron Man and also Doctor Strange, what are you gonna hold in your hands? Or is it just gonna be, because they use leap motion technology, but then still, how would you activate that? I wonder.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, but I don't think, from what I get the impression from the trailer, that you're all going to be wearing these suits, and that the other characters will be in it, but you won't be able to play as them. So I think Iron Man, Doctor Strange, Wasp, and Ant-Man are just like other people that are in the world. Yeah. I think you're all wearing these like kind of hybrid Iron Man, Black Panther.
Three people in the suits, and one of them naked. Yeah, that's going to make an interesting Void experience.
I wonder, are they going to upgrade the Void then with some new technology? Because it does sound like it.
Maybe, but obviously, we unfortunately none of us are going to be able to try it because this is only in the US and Canada. This new experience opens up on the 18th of October. You can pre-order tickets now, but apparently it's going to be a limited run. So they're not sure if this is going to be a permanent experience as part of their lineup. So if you want to try it out, you got to kind of be quick because it's only going to be available for a couple of months. But of course, they got key locations in like Anaheim, Las Vegas, and places like that. So if you live near one, check it out and let us know, because we'd love to know what it's like.
That doesn't take away that the Void is welcome in Europe. I would love to see a pop-up in Amsterdam. I mean,
yeah, like the pop-up in the UK, it did pretty well from what I understand. And because it is like a relatively small cube, it fits quite well in like a shopping mall, which is where it was in the UK. And you could walk around it because it uses like the non-Euclidean spaces, which we've talked about before, which is like the T for God thing, where you're walking around in circles, but you feel like you're walking a long distance.
Maybe you can just offer yourself as like, hey, you can use my house as the next Void location.
Yeah. They can.
Like Mike sitting at his lunch, and meanwhile people are just having fun playing.
Making cups of tea for people, Yeah.
Tea for God, Mike. Tea for God. Make sure to make some tea for God.
I like what you did there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually got to meet the head of production, Camille, from the Void at OC6. So she was really interesting to talk to. She was hinting obviously at this Avengers thing, but couldn't say anything about it. But yeah, I did mention obviously we want more locations in the UK and in Europe, and she kind of hinted at something, but we'll have to wait and see.
Profitability matters though as well, right? I mean, over expansion is not something that I wish on any company. Go steady and stable. Keep your bottom line nice and clean. Keep making money. Expand when you can.
Yeah, but out of all the location-based VR experiences, the Void has been the one that's kind of like set the gold standard. Like it's interestingly, I bumped into the guy who was behind the Alien one, Alien Descent. We mentioned that on the podcast a while ago as well.
Sure.
And that was like in Orange County, I believe. But they ended up having to shut it down, apparently.
What?
Yeah.
I never heard much about it either.
I never heard of anyone that actually tried it either. So that's a real shame. But I love the Alien franchise, so I'd have loved to have tried it. So hopefully that comes back to life at some point.
I think Dreamscape is also quite good compared to the Void. And you also need to remember that the Void has places, like has locations at the best spots. You know, like for example, in LA, they have it near the pier. It's like one of the golden spots to be in. And they just opened a new one that is beautiful. It's this crazy, awesome place where they have one now. I don't know. I forgot the name.
And of course, they partner with ILM X Lab, so they get Star Wars, they get the Disney IPs,
all of
Wreck-It
those
Ralph,
big ones in the same
Marvel.
scene are in one place.
Yeah.
That's the thing, of course.
So that's cool. If you get to try it out, we'd love to know your feedback, and let us know.
It was Vegas,
So
by the way.
That is Void. Oh, Las Vegas as well. Yeah, cool. This was a quick addition that I added to news, so I may even surprise you guys with this one. But this is from the Valve Index subreddit. Because this week, a user by the name of Ein Handy reports that he sent his Knuckles controllers back to Valve due to the thumbstick clicking issue, which we talked about on a previous episode. Basically, the thumbsticks just don't click in all directions when they're pushed down. It's a really strange thing. Every other thumbstick on every other controller does it, so it's just weird that it doesn't happen on the Knuckles. He sent them back, and it seems the controllers that he got back are a hardware revision because there's some new additions. So not only does the thumbstick now click in all directions, but also they've added haptic feedback when pulling the triggers in the Steam VR menu system. Yeah.
What?
And he says
Without telling us.
Without telling anyone. And this is important because I think if they told everyone, then everyone would be sending their controllers back and call them a nightmare.
That's why we're doing it.
So that's why we're doing it.
Sorry, Valve. I am so sorry.
Maybe if you'd given me a free headset, I wouldn't have mentioned this, but you didn't. I would never do that. We report the news for you, our community. That's the important thing. So yeah, so now if you can, you might be lucky if you RMA your controllers that you might get this new revision sent back. So the key, like, I'm kind of intrigued about doing this myself, but of course the biggest issue for me is how long are they going to be away for? Because I want to use this headset. So it's kind of interesting that this has happened, and even when it was questioned on the subreddit, like, are you sure this like haptic feedback on the trigger is like not a software update and added to all Index controllers? He was like, no, I've got an older set as well. I tried them both side by side, and this new set has this haptic feature.
Like a millionaire,
and I'm like,
he's got two sets of indexes. What?
Yeah.
But
well, maybe he's a developer. I don't know.
So did this did the subreddit also assemble in that case where other people also reported this, because it's still one guy, and I'm not saying that like this sounds great.
And location. Yeah. What was this? US or where was this?
I don't know, but someone else also confirmed that the trigger thing as well.
Cool.
But obviously this was only yesterday, so it hasn't kind of like gained it much traction on the subreddit yet. But I'm sure
now it does.
It'll be a question of time. But yeah, like, if this is the case, then I'm certainly interested. But I want it to be a quick turnaround.
I don't see why someone wouldn't send back their broken controllers, because they sold broken controllers to us in the end.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that is the Valve Knuckles controllers.
And is there like, because people in the chat are asking as well, is there like a link that you can follow to RMA, or is it just general support?
Just do it through support on Steam. They will ask plenty of questions from what I understand, and maybe even you have to provide a video of the problem that you're having, but they're aware of, obviously, this thumbstick issue, is kind of widespread on Reddit. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Meanwhile, at the office, like, this red alarm starts to spin out and everyone's running around like, oh no, every LD reported on it. Help, help.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's definitely different than if they spammed the Steam store with it, and, full refund now available for Index controllers. Just click this link, and they don't want it to come at them that way. But that's great. I mean, even that they've responded to it in pretty quick time.
In a sneaky way.
Manufacturing cycle.
Sneaky way.
It's not really that sneaky, though. I mean, like, think about it. If you're doing a manufacturing retooling, that takes time. And until you get it right and you test it in the live, you don't want to then go blowing the trumpet, right?
So what you're saying is that they're still going to, in the end, post what they did and what they worked on.
I'm pretty confident that the outcome of this is going to be that they will make a public announcement and they will do a recall. And if you want index controllers replaced, I think that they will do it. You think that's not going to happen?
I don't think so. No. I don't think so. It costs them way too much money.
That's a good point.
Not like they haven't got enough money, but they won't do it, I don't think.
Yeah.
I think they'll keep.
They'll wait. They'll wait until people contact support.
They'll be admitting then that they made a mistake, because they initially said that the controllers work how they are intended to work.
There we go.
Hang on, that's a support answer. That's saying product is working as it was specified is a little bit different than the company statement.
I want a personal letter from Gabe Newell apologizing to me.
Oh my god.
I felt like we're like the VR whistleblowers here. But,
Whistleblowers.
Let us know in the chat if you successfully RMA them over the coming weeks. Love to know. But I'm tempted to do it myself. So
the Whistleblower VR podcast. I love it.
Yeah. So last bit of news this week is about Beat On and SideQuest on Oculus Quest. Now, as you'll probably know, since the Quest released, there's been like a thriving community behind sideloading, experimental apps and games, and of course a community behind custom Beat Saber songs and mods on Oculus Quest. You know, I'm a big advocate of like sideloading. I think it should exist. I think it promotes innovation, and I think we get to try experimental things, and I think that's great. However, there is an issue here, particularly with custom tracks and Beat Saber mods on Quest, because using this thing called Beat On through SideQuest is super easy. Like anyone can do it. It's that simple. And yesterday, the SideQuest team announced that Beat On, the developers, the team behind Beat On, will be shutting down the mod service for custom tracks and mods. And this is all due to the updated terms of service from Oculus. Now, I'll read some of it out in a bit, but basically, this new terms of service prohibits the use of mods in games from the Oculus Store. And the team at Beat On are probably looking at this thinking, we don't want to get sued here, so let's just back down, which I think is fair when you know who you're up against. So I had a look through the terms of service, and it has some interesting things in there, so let me just read some of this out. So it starts off with, if you have enabled developer mode, and we believe that you have misused the platform, including if it appears you have done any of the following: uploaded, distributed, or sideloaded any of the following content that appears to be infringing, copied, or pirated, or content that contains malicious code, or mods of application available on or through our platform that appear to infringe on third parties' intellectual property rights, which of course is, you know, other people's music tracks being used in Beat Saber.
Exactly.
Introduce malicious code, give players an unfair advantage or are otherwise not approved, or use software or other tools to extract assets or content, or violated other Oculus terms of service, code or conduct, or other Oculus policies. Then we may, without limiting any other rights or remedies available to us, including any other rights to terminate or suspend your account or access to the service, elect to do any or all of the following: warn you that your conduct has violated our policies, limit, suspend, disable your developer mode. That's interesting.
That is.
Limit or ban your access to certain Oculus platform features. Suspend, terminate, or ban your Oculus user account. Ban you from creating or registering any new or additional Oculus accounts, and/or refer you to law enforcement.
Well,
so you're like, holy crap. Okay, so if I'm Beat On developers right now, I'm probably soiled myself, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to step away from this one pretty rapidly. But also, even as an end user, it's kind of concerning, because it doesn't really seem like SideQuest are in the crosshairs in this. You know, I think it's still all right as a distributing platform for developers, you know, who maybe got rejected or have, you know, games, but for mods of games are no longer tolerated. That's clear. And it's all to do with copyrighted music, of course, because, you know, if you're allowing copyrighted music to be allowed on your platform, even though you don't necessarily have control of it, you will probably be in the crosshairs for a legal battle, and Oculus don't want that for sure. And you can understand why. So this is their sort of response to that. But what is quite concerning is that if you after I read the last bit, that if Oculus want to, they could shut down SideQuest overnight, but not targeting them, but by targeting the individual end users by locking down the registered developer accounts that people did without obviously being a developer. Do you know what I mean? Because that is part of the process. You have to register as a developer to use SideQuest. And if they know that you're not a developer, they're just like, you know what? Suspend your developer account. You don't have access to SideQuest anymore. Yeah,
this is an obvious chess move, and it's a smart chess move for them to make, because you need to put your pawns in the right place to block further, the wound further opening, so to speak. They've already got SideQuest happening. Whether they want it or not, who knows? But there are, it started to go down this path of like, how do we control this? And no doubt, legal team was looking at this and saying, they're going to come at us if we don't stop this. And so we need to put policies in place. And it's likely they've already had a conversation with whoever regulates this space, probably copyright holders, to be honest, who say, well, they're playing games on your system of our music, we own the rights to it. What are you going to do about it? And so they had to develop this as a response. So
I'm a little bit on the other end of this. I find this actually a fairly logical consequence, since pirated music is something that is a part of like Beat Saber, that is a thing, and Oculus or Facebook is not going to stand in the way of that kind of lawsuit, so they're going to update something like this. And I don't read it as like, because they're not saying if you enable developer mode and you're not a developer, we may do this. They say actually if you have enabled developer mode and we believe you have misused the platform, which means that you have infringed, copied, or pirated content.
Correct.
That is a different thing. That is not. For example, if I don't know, like
Go Games,
Windlands
for instance,
is on Oculus Quest, you're not
Correct.
pirating the game. However, if for example, Red Matter is available for free on SideQuest or whatever, then you're infringing on a copyrighted material that is then available, and then they have the right. But that content that contains malicious codes, most of available that are appear to infringe the third party. Those are all logical kind of things to me.
Yeah.
I don't read it as if a developer would upload their copyright to SideQuest, that Oculus then would be able to target that developer, say you need to take it off, because I don't think it works that way.
No, so like I said, I think sideloading apps on SideQuest will still exist, and I think it'll be fine.
Correct.
And I think that it will coexist. It'll be interesting to see when they try to monetize it, what happens. But I think for the time being, I think they're going to be okay. But it just seems that the mods and this like music tracks in Beat Saber is just a big no-no for them, which I understand.
Does this also mean that right now the PC VR community is also in danger, because modding on that is apparently then also... Why are they only targeting Quest in this case?
Who's modding, though? Who's modding VR games?
So this is the key. With Quest, you have to register a developer account to do it.
That is true.
That's the difference. With PC, they don't have any control over...
That's right.
And that's because we got a good question, a good comment in the chat, actually. It says, what if you legally own that music track? And that is true.
No, that's not how it works. You don't get a license. You don't get a license to use it for all purposes.
Your own music track, if it's your own music
but that's not what they're
track,
asking. They're saying, if I bought the MP3 off the store, do I then have a license to be able to load it to my SideQuest? You don't. And that's a misunderstanding. What you're saying, Rowdy, which is like PD, for instance, he used to write music. If he wanted to load one of his own tracks, I think the issue is they're going to get caught in the gray area behind all this falling over.
It's
right?
the same as what happened with Mega Upload.
Exactly, right? Mega Upload went down because of the 80% of the reasons users were using it for. 20% were totally legit, and they still didn't have a platform to upload anymore.
Exactly.
Same thing here. We actually talked about this so recently, and so the first victim that we can see is Beat On. Boom, just in the wind.
Yeah, that's
right?
the first time ever. Yeah.
Not a surprise. It was going to happen. It's happened. The concern in chat, and my main concern, because my favorite app in VR at the moment is Virtual Desktop, and it's like, I don't want that platform targeted. And I think as long as they stay away from the money line, they'll be safe. But
on the other
still
side, but on the other side, if you think about it, let's say Virtual Desktop would be, one of the next ones in line. Then by forcing the players to not use it, because otherwise they're going to get banned, you can also just get the developer, because the developer needs to make money in the end to be able to continue doing what he's doing.
So I think this is the weird thing. This is where things get kind of interesting, because you mentioned Virtual Desktop, but Big Screen has the same problem for a long time as well, in that users have been watching maybe pirated content, but sharing that material with other users in a room. And again, you've got no control over that. And it's interesting why it's different, but I think it's because, like, at the end of the day with Virtual Desktop and Big Screen is that you can access your PC. And once you can access your PC, then you can do anything there. You've got no control over what the end user does. But certainly with Beat On, it just seems an easier one to target.
You also make a good point here, Mike. So the access to your PC, right? You can do that with Dash and Virtual Desktop. Yeah. You can literally sit there, and if you wanted, you could watch a pirated film while you're playing Elite Dangerous, right? You know what I mean? Like, so I kind of feel that to an extent there's an intrinsic binding between the functionality of Virtual Desktop, which got there first, what there's in Dash. They're kind of side by side. But some people are making the point, like, isn't Beat Saber in the end just a kind of a glorified, MP3 player for a lot of people? And it's like, I want my visuals, I want to play this.
Yeah.
I think what's going to happen is this gets shut, and then Beat Games just open custom song support as the appropriate
They've been
path.
talking about it for a long time, and just to be clear, this didn't come from Beat Games and it didn't come from Oculus. It's just the fact that Oculus updated their terms of service, Beat On developers read it and were like, we're on dangerous ground here, and that's smart of them to do that.
They are.
But yeah, it's just one of those things. And I think the problem is, like, with big screen and virtual desktop, it's not like Oculus or have a method to buy that stuff legitimately from their store right now. Whereas, with Beat Games, they're releasing regular DLC packs, like we've seen, like Panic at the Disco just released, and they're paid for DLC tracks. So they're losing out when potentially you could get this DLC for free through Beat On. And I think that is the biggest issue right now.
That's the problem that what they're saying then is like, you're infringing on the copyright, or you have a third party that has intellectual rights to it, and you haven't found a way to go around that. And that was the same problem that like all those like Napster and Kazaa and
I just wonder how deep they want to go with this, because in the end, a lot is copyright. Let's say VR chat for a part. There's also stuff that people, they have avatars, they have worlds that they build that are also they don't have a license for that, using a certain image.
Yeah, but if it can be tracked down to a certain individual, they'll go after it.
But then you're like, the thing is, if you start to punish people for creativity, because I also don't support piracy to a certain point, but in VR chat, it's like a place where people get to, make whatever they want, and I totally get it that everything should be licensed. That's why we see the internet change now.
But that's a different question.
It's like now, since yesterday, they created the fear of getting banned because you use something, and that hasn't been there before. Have you ever heard of someone getting banned on the Oculus platform before? No, because it didn't exist before. Now they have this power. They created this power, and of course, with Beat On, it makes sense to do it. But
there were bans for abusive users.
But
there were
now
bans for store.
But now they
specifically
mention the developer part that people have been using, and right now it's only because of Beat On, but they might continue straightening the rules even more.
But that's something they're saying. They're saying if you're using the developer mode and you're misusing the platform by pirating copyright.
I know. That's not legal.
That's not. I mean, it's the same if for example, you pay for an internet service and you download a movie from a website.
Yeah, of course.
Illegally, then you're actually in the wrong. And if they can track down your IP address, there are certain countries that will actually, for example, Germany, they will actually send you a fine for that.
I totally understand that, but I feel like personally that this is just the beginning, and I still, as I said before, I think SideQuest and many other mods are a ticking time bomb, and they are not in the roadmap of Facebook, because it's Facebook we're talking about here. I don't know what Oculus would have done in this situation when they were still, I think they had to do the same thing. But in the end, this shows that we're getting to a point where we're reaching the ceiling of what is still, legal and what isn't.
Our buddy Eminus, Eric Hartley, has just posted a very interesting point. He said the terms of service were updated on September 18th, which was not coincidentally due to a large portion of the Oculus Quest library being uploaded to a BitTorrent site. If you guys remember that, and the shutdown mechanics. So definitely, Eric, thank you for mentioning that. That's a good reminder, because that happened actually just before most of us were kind of flying to the States and got distracted by all of this. But that's a very important hallmark. And this response, as he said, not coincidentally, is a direct result, at least in part.
And I totally get that. I don't condone piracy. I want developers to get paid for their hard work. It's a small enough industry as it is, and I don't want them to struggle any more than they have to. And I totally agree with that. It is a shame, but it is what it is. I think, to be honest, if we all think about it, we probably knew that this was coming from the very beginning. That custom tracks got announced.
Honestly, from the terms of service that they're writing, that it's more directed at this than to piss off users or to piss off people who are actually working creatively to make the platform succeed.
Exactly. I do think.
That.
Yeah, I do think SideQuest will continue to be a distribution platform for games, from developers. But I do think, again, we'll see more kickback potentially when they start monetizing the platform. But of course, we'll keep you all updated.
One additional point on this, Mike. If anyone else is interested, because now it's just circumstantial. I certainly didn't influence the Beat On developers, but the day before they updated this and they kind of they're pulling off the platform, so to speak. If you have your Beat Saber modded, it's actually relatively easy to update and get it off. Or if you want the new DLC, etc., that we'll talk about in a moment, you just use SideQuest with your Quest connected, and you go and browse the apps. You can essentially take Beat Saber off, reinstall it natively on the Quest, and then you've taken Beat On off.
It still sounds weird that they now have to moderate their developer mode that in the end is just broken, and they should find a better way to have a portal for developers to, develop their games on Quest and not have actual consumers access that. Yeah. That's what Oculus Share was. It made sense because it was a side thing as well, just like SideQuest. But now they're just going to moderate their own system that is just keeping the floodgates open. So it just creates more...
I'm just glad that exists, because without that, we wouldn't have SideQuest. So
I'm sure someone else figured something else out. Let's say even if SideQuest would disappear, we're going to get 3 in return, because the community supports OpenVR and is not...
Hey, you're making the point I made last week. All right.
Yeah, we all love OpenVR in the end. So.
Yeah.
So that is Beat On getting shut down. So no more custom tracks or mods on the Quest.
Okay.
Let's move on to releases then. Hand over to Zim for the lowdown on the games that you should be checking out next week.
Hey. Okay.
We've got quite a few because we didn't do them last week. We've got to catch up. So prepare yourselves for this.
I'm in no way covering everything that's released in the last 2 weeks. I have 5 things I want to mention. Some of these you'll know, and I'm going to fly through because, as someone said in chat, quick news, we're 73 minutes in. So typical FReality style, we get into these.
That's why I don't call it quick news anymore. I just call it news now.
Oh, do you? Well, then I need to update my titles. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. So all right. So the first thing is first. This is the one that I wanted to catch up on. We'll talk about this a little bit more next week. But a game that launched on the 24th of September, which is a fantastic VR game by Rockstar, is LA Noire, the VR Case Files, which is kind of 7 independent little contained stories. They've got some really good, I'll call it kind of piecemeal examples of good VR design, from a bank heist, driving mechanics, third-person interaction in this, violent crime thriller. So if you haven't played this in flat, then definitely take the time for it in VR. And that dropped on PSVR. It has been out for some time. Actually, December 2017 is when this first launched. Just as a reminder to those of you naysayers who think that maybe VR GTA or VR Red Dead Redemption is impossible. Well, there has been some murmurs about that, and as I said, we'll talk more about that in next week's show as well. But keep your eyes open and your fingers crossed. I would love to see a Rockstar VR title. Second one, because they've already shown their prowess in this one. Anyone else want to make a comment about the VR Case Files, LA Noire?
No, it gives you a taste of what GTA 6 is going to be like.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, we'll see if GTA 6 has VR support or not. I would love it. I'm still... Rockstar are slow. They're a behemoth, right? I mean, the production is... if you ever look at their credits... You just look at that and you go, holy shit, that's where games are at the AAA. And then you look at the numbers that they sell and you understand why it takes that many people to push such a behemoth.
They're very much like Valve in that they're very secretive and they do things on their own time.
Yeah. So there's that one. Anyway, Reddit's got a lot of very interesting stories about that. And we did hear this week, obviously, Red Dead Redemption is coming to PC. So more on that next week. The next game, this one is totally psycho. This is called Drums of War. Landed the 1st of October. Glad it landed in October. This game seems totally nutty. Drums of War, Rift Vive and Windows Mixed Reality support. £7.40 in pounds, so just about $8 or $9. It's got a locomotion system that you couldn't see anywhere else. This is best succinctly described as an orc drumming game. You smack the drums to it's kind of like left, right with your drums. And so you're actually moving technically in 6 Degrees of Freedom, I suppose, but you're actually fixed to this drum kit, and you use the drum kit as well to fire off ammunition. This is just freaking nuts. It was created by the lead designer of Guitar Hero 3, Legends of Rock, Guitar Hero Metallica, and Band Hero. So there's some pedigree here. But you basically kill off dwarf scum, burn their villages down, and save other orcs in this VR music rhythm game. So there you go, lads. I don't know what to think about this. Like, either it's going to be feckin' confusing as all hell, or it's going to be really fun. And it's got a real heavy metal soundtrack. So Drums of War, check it out.
It looks like hilarious to play, though.
It's like, have you ever dreamed of being an orc drummer? This is your game.
It's
hilarious.
It's got to be one of the most unexpected combos that I've seen in our releases so far. All right, the next one is a real what do I call this one? This one has been a nightmare in my head for many years. You're gonna guess already what this is. This is Dreadhalls on Oculus Quest. So for about $10, White Door Games have landed on yet another platform. They've been with us since 2014, landing on Gear VR, Vive, Rift. It just keeps coming to different platforms. They've got PSVR, and now Quest. So I did hear quite a few mixed reviews from both Reddit and the Oculus Store. If you don't know what Dreadhalls is, it's a procedurally generated horror dungeon crawler, and it's really got two hemispheres within the game. One part is a relatively short campaign that steps you through different creatures, bad guys, and you kind of progress level by level. And then there's the randomized mode, which is actually the thing that goes full procedural. You don't know what you're going to face. You don't know how easily you'll get out of the dungeon. The dungeons do tend to be around about the same size, but Dreadhalls, in my opinion, is really the best game if you want horror that remains consistent. I've never, over more than 100 hours of Dreadhalls gameplay, gotten used to it, and it still scares me to this day. So if there's a grandmother that you don't particularly like, or you're waiting on inheritance, or you've got a cousin that you just want to like piss off a little bit, then stick him in Dreadhalls. I think it makes a good buy. And just a reminder, Sergio Hidalgo behind this is also making a sci-fi space game, which I'm really looking forward to. I wonder if any of the procedural drives in that are going to come through as well. So keep an eyes out for that.
I remember doing a live stream of Dreadhalls. I actually finished it as well. But the one bit of advice I would give you is that when you see the dog, he doesn't like to be poked in the butt. Just saying. Yeah.
I personally don't like the meatballs. Those things are feckin' terrifying.
Oh yeah, they're weird.
Anyway, it's all like something out of what's that feckin' Doctor Who? It's kind of like Doctor Who a little bit. I don't know, and it's in its horror. Okay, the next one. This is like totally obvious. What game is coming out on the 10th of October? Can anyone tell me?
It's a Halloween title for sure.
It's a Halloween title. No, it's not a Halloween title.
Beachbody Bro Halloween.
I still can't believe you covered that. I still can't believe you covered that, Mike. So, Asgard's Wrath. Long awaited. I'll call it AA title. I know they're going to hate me for not saying AAA, but Sanzaru Games have come out with this game, which you get to become the next Asgardian god as you immerse yourself in this legendary world of Norse mythology. And I would say from all the times I've played Asgard's Wrath, it certainly does deliver on that. The nearest thing I would say to it in terms of its look and feel, would be Hellblade. Hellblade gave me similar vibes. And you get to battle as a mortal and transfer yourself into kind of god mode. The one thing I would warn you about, however, if you are like me and you're always chasing hard drive space, 121 gigabyte install size. So you really need a godly sized hard drive for this one. I think that's something that you gotta watch out for. So the swordplay was particularly good when we demoed it some months back at PAX. Solid game. Looking forward to it, and it's a high price. I think it's $40.
Will this run on my Intel Core Potato?
That's a good question. I know all of our demo machines have always been highly spec'd, so I look forward to see how well it runs. But it looks very well. That's one thing I'll say about the game.
Okay.
All right. Finally, the last thing I want to talk about is Oculus Quest has gotten a series of Oculus Go games. So I think there's 60 titles that have now been ported over, and as a kind of like a licensing pat on the back, you get the value of all these Oculus Go titles, some that I'll mention because I think if you haven't played them and you're an Oculus Quest owner, you will have missed them, let's say, on Go, and these are things you should definitely check out. Now, someone said that Daedalus was on there. I didn't confirm it, but these are the 3 that I would recommend. I'd recommend Land's Edge, which is kind of short, has a kind of a Windlands look to it, and as a kind of a bite-size, say less than 2-hour experience, very pretty, very nice design. And actually, a lot of these titles have 6DoF movement in them now because of the Quest, which is really cool as an upscale. And then Darknet, if you've ever been into hacking and stuff like that, again, probably uses VR the least. The VR's around you, but really makes you feel like a hacker. Great kind of puzzle design and fantastic. Republique we've mentioned before. If you already have Republique, before the end of the year, if you claim it, you can get a copy. But after that, then they're going to start to charge you for the Quest title, which I think is a fair time frame. It's not like, 2 weeks do it, or you're not getting it. So end of year is pretty fair for Oculus to do that. But as I said, I think it was last week, I've got to rage about something. I've got a favorite Go title that isn't supported, and that's called Neros. And I'm going to flash that on screen. We talked about piratey game a little bit earlier, De Leon Legends, which is coming to the PC VR platform. But because I've talked about it before and I've never showed it off, I figured on the video podcast we'd at least show you a little bit what Neros was all about. It's actually quite a good-looking game by Resolution Games. If you've been impressed by the game design of recent games like Akron, for instance, then this is something you shouldn't pass by. And this is my plea to Oculus. Please let Resolution Games. I don't know if they've actually attempted it or if it wasn't popular enough. I think that's it. I think it was a hidden gem and people just don't know this exists. It plays like FTL or From Other Suns. In this lovely ship-on-ship battle, you command a crew, you upgrade your weapons, and it's roguelike. When you die, your game resets and you start over again with ships that you have unlocked. So if you're into piratey stuff and you don't have PC VR, then maybe we can all beg Oculus to launch Neros on the Quest.
What I do know is that Resolution Games is very proud of Neros, because when I went to their office a couple of weeks ago, they had this fish tank that was completely decorated with all these Neros themed things.
Awesome.
And they were telling me about it. And they also had a replica of one of the ships that you have to, so yeah, they are very proud. It's one of their first titles they made. So yeah, they definitely are, I think, up for it. But if Oculus is, that's the real question.
Please. It's amazing. More players deserve to play that game. It is an incredible piece. And Nathie, if you have photos of your visit, or I'll have to contact Resolution. I need to see this fish tank. It sounds great.
Yeah, you should.
So quick question. Is there a list somewhere of all the games that are coming?
Yes, there is. Now if you read it and you say list of Oculus Quest games, there's actually a formal Oculus blog post. So Mike, for the description, I can feed that to you. It's a little buried. It's like under an FAQ, and you have to pop one out, and then it gives actually, with little thumbnails of all the games, the entire list, which is really nice to see.
So one more question that I've been wondering about playing an Oculus Go title on the Quest. Is it the same experience, because the Go isn't positional tracked? So are you actually getting that, or is it the same? It's like an emulated version of...
It's based on, so it is an emulated version by definition, but some games like Land's Edge, for instance, you are able to move in 6DoF, and your player character actually moves. So instead of using a thumbstick or whatever to move around, you do get that. But it's not every game has it. So
with others, you're just stuck.
It's up to the dev.
Your head is on a stick, and you have to.
Yeah, some games are strictly 3DoF.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically during Carmack's keynote, he talked about this and said that some games, just because of the engine that they used, when they transferred it to 6DoF, it just automatically worked, but it doesn't apply to all games.
Yeah, and someone in chat was saying that some of the games haven't yet appeared in the Oculus library to download, so it might be a feathering through that they're doing over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, so I was intrigued. Are they going to release each game individually on the store, or is it just a case of one app, will be like Oculus Go emulation app, and then you rebuy the gaps? I
actually got contacted for one of the games in an Oculus email that came to my inbox, and it gave me instructions of how to go to it. I think it was library and some other subset, but my understanding is that it's individualized one by one.
Okay, cool.
Because again, they're selling them as a commodity, so they're selling these games as well. I wonder how they're going to be tagged in the store is my main question, because if you're a Quest owner and you buy an upscaled Go game, you might be like, what the hell did I just buy? I bought a 3DoF game, but I've got 6DoF controls. You might be disappointed.
I do think you gotta search for it. It's not gonna be like in your face because the native Quest titles are still the ones that they want to sell the most, right?
And the last little piece before I wrap up, some DLC for those of you who are like, maybe short on change this week and looking for some DLC. Arizona Sunshine have dropped their damned DLC, so that's been in the works for some time. Gives me really Left 4 Dead vibes. And then of course Beat Saber with what they announced at Oculus Connect. Panic at the Disco has launched. Now I heard that was 4 tracks. I haven't had a chance to check it myself. Is it only? It's only 4 tracks, right?
Yeah, and it is $4.99, I believe, in pounds.
Okay.
So you're almost paying £1 per track.
It's pretty normal though, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I bought it yesterday and I checked it out, and I really like the new environment. Like, there's parts of the environment, and I've seen stuff that I've never seen before in Beat Saber tracks. Yeah. Like, they completely black it out.
Yep.
You can't see anything. It's pitch black. Then the track lights up again with all the neon lights and stuff. Yep. So they do some really nice visual tweaks that I've never seen before. But of course, it's the same game we know and love, but Panic at the Disco music, which is also great. So.
I saw that the levels kind of look like you're in a church. It's like you're like God is a DJ, right? And then you have this going on. I think it's epic. Yeah. I love it.
It is cool. Very cool.
So that's it. Those are all. Sorry, go on, Mike.
I was just going to say that if you buy it on Quest, then you also get it on Rift as well.
Cross-buy. Yeah. That's really important, especially if you're in a household where you're buying Beat Saber tracks 4 times.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure.
Excellent. Okay, well, hope everyone, if there's anything I missed as well, mention it in chat. We might mention it at the end. If there's anything in particular that launched in the last 2.5 weeks that you particularly enjoyed, launched, and you thought was like a hidden gem, tell us. Otherwise, back to you, Mike, for the big backbone breaker.
Yeah. Okay, so the main topic this week is, of course, our hands-on experience with the HTC Vive Cosmos. Now, I think out of all of us, I think only Nathie and I are the ones that have actually tried it. Am I right?
Yep.
Yeah. Nathie got to try it at HTC's office in San Francisco, so it was kind of like a demo, like that they set up. Whereas obviously I've tried it here at home, and I've tried some other things that maybe they wouldn't show at this demo. So let's kind of get into it, and then you can kind of chime in with what you think as well, Nathie, because I'd be intrigued to know. But like I pre-ordered one, but then HTC were kind enough to send one out for me to review, so then I canceled my pre-order and just used the one that they gave me, and it was basically waiting for me when I got home from California. So it was kind of like one of the first things I did when I got back, even though I was so tired. I was super excited to actually try it out, because I was actually genuinely excited about this headset for a few reasons. I thought it was kind of interesting with their new controllers. I thought the flip-up display was kind of interesting, although I was skeptical about it to a certain degree. But I was just excited that HTC were coming to the market with another headset, to be honest. So I jumped into it straight away, got it set up, and I will say, the setup process, really simple. You just need to download some software from the HTC website, runs you through the process, tells you how to put the headset on, tells you how to adjust your IPD, which is a great thing. Like, many headsets that I've set up before tend to kind of shy away from telling you about IPD for some reason, which is so bizarre because it's so intrinsic to having a good experience. So I was glad that was part of the setup. So setup took no longer than, say, 30 minutes. Super simple. So let's talk about comfort, because comfort is a subjective thing. I'm not necessarily a fan of Halo design headsets. That's why I've modded my Rift S with a Vive Deluxe audio strap now. I prefer the headset of the original Rift and the Valve Index. But with that said, it's a comfortable headset. A lot of the pressure is on your forehead, and the Halo obviously tightens up at the back with a dial, just like the Rift S does.
Yeah. Quick question there, Mike.
However,
go
for it.
Does it quick pull on and off like the PSVR, or is it more like Rift S where it's kind of fixed and you have to reset it?
Flip up.
More like Rift S, that you have to dial it back and then lift it off. Yeah.
Right. Okay,
the flip up front, as predicted with my concern with it, was that because of the hinge, it flips down and it does fit nice on your face, but it's not quite enough pressure. And because of that, on each side of the headset, I get light leak. And it could be just I've got a narrow head, but when that happens, you get slight reflection on the lenses in dark scenes, which is annoying. So that's that.
I had the exact same problem.
Oh, you did?
I wondered something about the flip up the display as well, because that was one of the things that I saw a lot in videos. When people flip the display up, the edges are still kind of like hanging before your eyes. So I mean, it might be easier to see your keyboard, stuff like that. But if you want to watch your screen, I think I would still have to look up a little bit in order to see it properly.
Well, the thing is, and I think Mike is going to get there later, is it has a see-through mode as well that is in complete color, so you don't even have to flip it up anymore. But the thing that I experienced was I put it down. I couldn't really get my eyes into the display itself. I really wanted it to go closer, and PlayStation VR did this well, where there's this button underneath. You pull it, and then you can move it forward and backwards. But since it's a flip-up design,
substantially
it can't
forward.
do that.
Yeah, substantially. The big difference, actually, and it's a big difference. A big complaint of mine with the Rift S is that thing moves about half an inch. Like, it doesn't move at all. Whereas the PSVR, you can move that 3 inches away from your face, which is great.
And since on the sides of the Vive Cosmos has this cover on the sides that still lets some light in, well, with PlayStation VR it has these big rubber sides that really
grommets.
So I had the same thing as Mike.
Yeah, but you're totally right. No forward and backwards movement, and like you said and highlighted, with Rift S, Index, and the PSVR, I really dial it straight to my eyeballs so I can get the widest field of view possible. So that is a shame that that's not on there. It also has this rubberized nose piece, which is actually pretty big, but despite it being there, it didn't eliminate nose gap light as much as maybe the Vive Pro did. And again, I think it's just because it doesn't sit as close to your face as probably you would like. And for a feature that you're probably not going to use that much, I would have just preferred the feature you're going to use the most is actually using the headset for VR. So I think they missed a trick there. I think developers will be happy, but for consumers, I don't know.
How's the just comparing it to Index, because obviously it's 2/3 the price of an Index. I've heard that the Kaz and Cherry did a lovely stream of this, and so just a shout out to them because they tried it in a whole bunch of different titles. The audio is equivalent to the deluxe audio strap on a Vive, would you say?
Yes. Yeah, so exactly the same, I would say, to the Vive Deluxe audio strap and the Vive Pro audio. Yeah, it gets the job done. The only major benefit with this is that you can clip off the headphones very easy. You just got a clip on top. I might be able to show you actually quickly.
And also it has headphones, by the way.
Yeah,
it actually has a view.
Yeah.
So
a feature in modern headsets.
I know, right? I know.
I'm not going to get it to autofocus, I'm afraid, but there is a latch there.
Is it like a bumper mic, or is it a slider? What is it?
It's like a little latch that you unhook, and then you can just take them off completely. Okay. And then you can use your own headphones, and then there's a 3.5mm audio jack you just plug your own headphones into. So
I think that sound-wise and also microphone-wise, because they are kind of in the same ballpark, it's like the same Vive Pro and Vive had. It like the audio, I mean, it does the trick, as you said, but if you're more into audio, you can hear it's kind of flat and that it's lacking some bass. But
the microphone
overall,
on the Vive Pro is maybe the worst out of all of the headsets out there.
This is a bad one as well.
Yeah, it's not clear. It's not clear.
It's
actually the original Vive is better. The original Vive is actually not a bad mic. If you put a little bit of foam in it, it's almost on par with the original Rift.
It's definitely the fact that it doesn't have a little bit of foam in there that makes your voice pop a lot. But if you want to play a multiplayer, people can understand you fine. It's not that.
Yeah. In terms of audio, like Index is the king, then CV1 I would say is the second, and then the rest are quite bad, so I wouldn't recommend any of them for audio anyway. But let's talk about IPD, because it does have manual IPD adjustment, which is a welcome addition, because obviously the Rift S doesn't have that, and that eliminated a lot of people to be able to even use that headset. So it's good that it exists, although it's not as big as the original Rift or Vive, I don't think, in that it's got an IPD range of 62 to 72 millimeters. So I think Rowdy is yeah, you're low, right?
That's more than the Rift S then.
Yeah.
More than Rift S, of course, because Rift S doesn't have any. But what I'm saying is,
but the digital IPD adjustment goes up to 58.
But the digital IPD adjustment is just accounting for scale. It's not a true IPD adjustment. But you have a low IPD, right?
Okay. But a 62 is way more than what the original Vive Pro has, I think. Wasn't that
right?
60?
Because the CV1 went down to like 58 or 59, I remember. Yeah. But so yeah, if you have a lower IPD, it just might be worth considering.
I think I'm at 50, 57 or something.
So, yeah, I'm in the 60 as well.
Some questions from chat as well, just in terms of kind of God rays and glare. Is it comparable to a Vive original?
Yes. Yeah, so the lenses they use are very similar in design, so it has the same issues with God Racing Claire. Also, it's worth mentioning that the sweet spot is relatively small compared to like PSVR or like Quest or Rift S. So you really have to dial it in and get the headset right in the sweet spot to have a good experience, particularly when reading text. So that's what I would say about
I do
that.
have to say, I rarely have problems with IPD, though. Even though my IPD is fairly on the low side, I with the Vive Pro, with the Rift S, with the Quest or whatever headset I use, I rarely have problems as long as I put it on the lowest setting.
I immediately am imagining one of those like UK sitcoms where the guy has like beer glasses on that are like super thick, and I just imagine Rowdy being like, "It's so clear." Sorry.
So as you guys know that like I went to the theme park, to play this virtual ride thing, Dream Flight. I tried the Vive again back there, so it's not that long ago, and honestly I didn't experience that much glare and God rays. They were like reduced significantly.
Sorry, what headset are you talking to? This is
Vive versus Vive Cosmos.
Right. Yeah.
But that was my experience. I tried some experiences, of course, at the office of HTC, and of course they're well prepared in some way, but I got to try some dark scenes. There was this one scene that looked very familiar to Elite Dangerous, where you have this red glowing HUD, and then the rest was all complete black. And I of course it's still there, but very minimal. Not the same anymore. That's what I would say.
Okay, that's probably fair. Yeah, because it's been a while since I've compared. Like I've tried.
Oh yeah,
it's been a while.
But
since
that's the hard part. If you play with a new headset, you don't have the other one next to it.
Right next to it.
Constantly do this, then you're like, oh yeah, now I see it.
Did you hear a kind of a native hum in the background as the HTC mind control machine was trying to influence your opinion?
It's interesting you say hum actually, because it does have active cooling, and when you're not actually in a VR game or application, you can actually hear it, and it's quite loud. Like, bearing in mind that the Quest has active cooling as well, and you very rarely hear
Rarely hear it.
Very, very quiet. But
They
this is
tweaked
probably
that,
this is probably 3 to 4 times as loud as that fan. So you can actually hear it when you're not in a VR.
Does it do the trick? Does it work?
Yeah, it doesn't get hot. I didn't have any fogging issues, but then I don't generally have that anyway. But certainly when you play on the Index, you notice that the headset does get noticeably warm. So it's a cooler headset to wear when you compare to
But
the
what
Index.
it does better than the Index is that it doesn't have this plastic display on front. It has this, it looks kind of funky, but it's like a vent, and it gives enough airflow to, breathe.
That's why when I tried the Index, and again, being my background was electronic engineering, and the form factor of the Index is great apart from that panel in the front, because it's like, that's just going to trap heat unnecessarily. No way would I play with this thing on it. I mean, as cool as it is to have the frunk and all that, to me it's an unnecessary kind of element to that. And the thing I have to say though now, especially with the flooding opinions about this, which are generally negative for the price point, when I look at the display, I can't but think of a little boy going, "Oh no!" Like, it just looks like that. He's like, "Oh no!" And it's just that's all like
surprised, like.
that's it.
But that's the thing, like, it's like you highlight the price point now. I mean, full disclosure, like HTC is sending me a headset as well. It just hasn't arrived because FedEx in Belgium is quite terrible. But what justifies this price point? Like, is there any kind of feature on this headset that makes it worth that price point, or at least makes it stand out compared to other headsets?
No. Basically, no. And that's the problem. Because like the resolution bump is nice, of course. When you get a slight bump in resolution, it's always nice. But with everything else, which we'll get into, it's not worth it. And
it's basically overpriced. That's what it is. It's just, if this headset went down in price, then it would make more sense. The price doesn't identify with the hardware itself. That's the problem here.
Yeah, it's probably the other way around though. Like, all the rest is underpriced, and this one is probably the price point that it is intended to be at.
Holy shit, that's big, Mike. Oh my god, can you switch that on? Because they look. Oh my god, side by side, they look huge. They look like so what Mike is showing us for the audio listeners is side by side the Oculus Touch 2 control versus this. It looks like it let itself go. That's honestly what it looks like.
You could put this touch controller into the Vive Cosmos.
Whoa.
You can fit it in there almost.
X-rated content. Mike is now merging the two controllers.
But yeah, you're right. It's a beast, and it's heavier than the touch and heavier than the index controllers.
Did you get fatigue? Did you get fatigue off of it, Mike, using it?
Not really, no. You know, I suppose the plus is that you're going to get a bit of more of a workout playing Beat Saber, I guess, because you're swinging this thing around. But really, you know, if you hit a wall with this, I think it's going to be pretty robust. So I think that is a plus.
Is its heft comparable to a Vive wand? It looks kind of like it would be the same weight as like a Vive wand.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But
I think
way
it would
better
be
than a Vive
heavier.
wand.
It has two batteries in there, right? 2
AA batteries, right? But there's one thing that I hate about this controller, and this is what it is. If you see here, that is the grip button, and it is literally a button. It's not analog, so it's a clicky button.
You mean squashy kind of feel to it?
Yeah. So if you look at the Rift S controller, it's got some play in it, right? And you can actually delicately squeeze that, and then your hand in game will delicately squeeze. The problem is with this controller, when you push it, your hand goes like this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's binary.
So you don't get that refined gripping motion in game, which is a real shame. So yeah, they're big, they're bulky. Unfortunately, I didn't get to try out the battery life, which was one of the main things I really wanted to know, but I'll tell you there's a reason why I couldn't.
What I do think that was nice about these controllers is that it doesn't have a magnet in the battery compartment, so it just clicks in there and it just stays in there, and there's like this certain material that keeps like grip it. It's heavy. Some people like that, you know. Some people are not into, you know, light controllers. Some people have these heavy controllers. I think these heavy controllers are more suitable for arcades than a consumer. I think consumers expect like aerodynamics almost. You know what I mean?
I think it'll, like, most of this stuff will all come down to personal preference, but someone that's used a lot of VR, like, this is just the way I'm feeling about a lot of this stuff. So let's get into one of the biggest problems with the headset, because everything else is like, so far everything's kind of like okay, you know, like it's like good, it's all right, you know, it's okay, you can deal with it. Personal preference with Halo head straps and stuff like that, that's fine. This is where things start getting real problematic, and that is the tracking, because in my environment here, you know, a lot of people complaining. I saw a lot of complaints about like the headset giving you a low light warning in certain environments. And I know like Ben Lang from Road to VR, for example, he completely delayed his review because he was having this issue and couldn't actually use the headset in the environment he was playing in, which is a shame. And I think I actually updated my headset with the latest firmware after it's been resolved. So I didn't have that issue come up at all. However, I was getting big issues with tracking in controller drift and just hands disappearing, and or when they do get lost, they're not introduced fast enough. So this was more prominent in Arizona Sunshine when I was aiming like with one hand. I was getting severe controller drift. Like your pistol would be like rotating away from the zombies. So when you're trying to shoot zombies, that's important that you can actually shoot them. And in the lab, when I was using a bow and arrow and one hand was almost like passing the tracking cameras, then you was getting, again, like a real disconnect, shift, and drifting issues. Now, then
can I ask you
there
a
was
question?
Issues.
Sorry, just to pause.
Sure,
can I just ask you a question on that? So do you, from your playthrough, like we know that Oculus Touch, for instance, is one part tracking, one part software interpolation of position.
Yes.
Do you think that based on your initial play, this is the launch of Cosmos, they are entirely reliant on the tracking?
Absolutely, yeah. And this is something that I highlighted in my hands-on impressions, was that that's what I thought it was, that they were relying on the tracking alone, and they didn't have this kind of predictive movement system to use.
The bit of Carmack magic.
Probably
needs. That's the
right,
thing. That's the difference.
It's probably not even Carmack, by the way. That's probably a whole different department. So I'm sorry to those developers for what Rowdy has said. So callous he is.
Yeah.
And ravenous.
And it's also worth noting that when the tracking, when you surpass the tracking volume and then you reintroduce the controller, it's just not as snappy as what we're used to with like Quest and Rift S. It doesn't feel instant enough. It feels like there's a delay there. But again, this could probably be resolved. I hope it really does. I hope they push an update and resolve this, because, you know, It'll be a real shame.
So when I was at their office, and obviously they let me play on this build that worked just fine. Like tracking was great, didn't have any issues. And then of course the consumer launch happened, and it was a complete disaster tracking wise. But that does show that it can work. But like the thing is, if you launch a product and you're not ready for it yet, then don't launch it.
Yeah,
it's as easy as that, right?
Yeah. And I'm going to get more into that.
The competition is almost like half the price. Then if you then release that headset and it's not working as intended, it's just problematic.
Question for you guys
agree.
on the testing for the tracking: daylight or artificial light? What was your environment?
So I don't have any daylight in this room.
You're just like
it's all artificial
cavern.
Yeah, it's a cave. But like, if all the other headsets work in this environment, so that's my.
But did Nathie, when he tried at the office, was there daylight coming in as well?
That was daylight. But
okay.
When I was playing, it gave me these warnings of, hey, the environment is too light, it's too dark, but the tracking was still fine while it gave me those warnings. And then I did ask them about it, but they gave me this strange answer of like, yeah, but a living room is going to be different and there's more on the walls. I'm like, well, this is a press room. And in the end, you're going to let me test it in the best room possible, right? That's what I expect from you when you invite me.
Yeah. And this is one of the
know.
things that kept cropping up after my video was that people were saying, oh, yeah, but you've got a green screen wall and, that's not a good environment for tracking. And you're right, it's not. It's not a very good environment for tracking. However, at no point during my testing was I facing my green screen. I always had my back to it during the testing to give it a fair chance. And like in front of my green screen, there's a lot of crap there. There's plenty of crap for it to track. So,
well, it's funny
that.
It's funny that you mentioned this because I watched Kez and Cherry play Beat Saber and some other titles, and they put all these like markers on their green screen, but then it was still acting up the same way. So even with a green screen wall, it should be working fine. But as you said before, it seems like the software really needs a big, patch.
Yeah, but also this wasn't even the biggest issue for me. Tracking aside, hopefully that can be resolved. The biggest issue for me right now is game compatibility. Now, this is something that we didn't have any heads up about, wasn't expecting this at all, and was just through me testing it that I found this. But the games I wanted to test this headset with were Superhot, Pavlov, and No Man's Sky. They were on my little list. Superhot and Pavlov, when I booted those games up through Steam VR, my hands were stuck in the floor, and you can't actually use them. And when I reached out to HTC and said, look, what's going on with this? They said, oh, yeah, not all games are supported with the Cosmos right now. And the issue is, it's not even just Steam VR games, it's games on Viveport as well aren't supporting the Cosmos. So it's just bizarre. And then No Man's Sky, for example, it won't even boot up past the menu screen. So you can't even play those games.
But I honestly, just looking at the Vive Cosmos itself, I don't think many people knew this headset launched in the first place. I don't think many people knew that there were even issues with it in the first place. It's like no one is really waiting for another headset to come out. It's a very saturated market at the moment, and this came at a strange moment. And then, of course, if your platform doesn't even support your own hardware, yeah, that's a disaster. That's a complete shit show. That's the worst thing I've heard about the Vive Cosmos so far. It's not the tracking issues, because I do believe they can be resolved.
Yeah,
but
I think
not
so
supporting your platform. Come on, seriously. Then just ask. First of all, it feels like they didn't even ask developers that our new headset is coming. Go and prepare yourselves. I saw Sam Watts from Loco Dojo asking consumers if they could test his game if it was working or not. That's the wrong approach. That's a complete, what the heck?
So this is the thing, like when you compare it to like the Index launch, like I don't think I've come across a game that didn't support Index controllers when it launched. But of course, Valve owns Steam, so they make sure it works. But it just seems weird that a headset comes out in this day and age that doesn't support the Steam VR platform 100%. Like you say, I think it's just completely unacceptable. And I think if you bought this headset as a first-time VR consumer, you're like, what the heck is this? What the heck is this?
Bad for VR. It doesn't sell VR.
On launch day, that's probably like the day that you really need to stand there and make sure that everything is like properly. Nothing will ever work like properly at day one. But it needs to work somehow, like not just supporting it. It's just like
no headset had like a perfect launch. You know, Rift S had its problems, Index had its problems, but this is dramatic. This is probably the worst we've seen on a launch headset.
But this points towards not putting effort into making your platform ready for the next gen headset you make.
Yeah, like I think certainly from my point of view, they should have reached out to more people to test it out in the wild before they actually released it. And if it wasn't up to scratch, then they should have delayed it until it was ready. Because I think this to release something that's bad and then to recover from it is very difficult in the VR space. And that's to do with, we've said this about games launching in early access. You know, if you have a bad experience, very little chance you're ever going to go back to it again, even after they've patched it out. So it's a risky move from them to do something like this. But I do hope that they do put the extra effort in, they fix the tracking, they fix the compatibility, and you know, in a couple of weeks' time, I'm gonna use the headset again and see what's improved. Yeah. But for now, it's just like I can't even use this headset because this is what I said about the controllers. I really wanted to test the battery life because from what I've heard, rumor is it is longer than 2 hours. Why they didn't address this in their marketing, I have no idea, because they should have done.
Yeah.
But it is. Apparently, it's longer than 2 hours. So I really wanted to put that to the test. But if I can't play any games with this thing, well, I'm not just going to play Beat Saber for like 5-6 hours to test out the tracking.
Even Beat Saber is a problem. Like the tracking that Kaz and Cherry were having was substantial. You know, it was like it was drift no matter what. And like you said in gun games. So I'm just curious. Like, and they had Post-its all over their wall, which actually improved their tracking apparently with the green screen. But even that. The artificial light thing, I wonder if that's actually causing some of it. Like they only tested in daylight or something.
Yeah. But I remember before Rift S launched and Quest launched, and I said to the guys at Oculus in Boston when we went to PAX, I said, look, I've got a green screen wall. Is this going to be a problem? And he was like, probably, yeah. And I was like, oh, crap, I'm going to have to buy some different green stickers and put them all over my wall. Never had to in the end. Like, never had an issue with tracking with Rift S and Quest, even facing my green screen.
The funny part, like when I went to HTC, their office, they have their own green screen studio, and they will probably play with their new headset in that studio while going live. So it should be just working. I don't know. Like on one side, it's like we should put the word out. Don't buy it right now. It's not recommended, and even if everything does work, it's still a very expensive price. They told me that this is a consumer headset, but this is going more towards a high-end price because this is like prosumer stuff once again.
And it's a problem because I mean HTC has been in the market for quite a while, but it feels like with the recent releases, feels like they're kind of like lagging behind a little bit. And again, this headset feels a bit like it's been rushed in some kind of way in order not to like drop the ball completely. So we need to bring something out now, or like we're gonna lose the market, or I don't know. It's a shame. It's really a shame.
It is a shame. I think like what you have here, Mike. I think the headset itself isn't that bad. It's not that bad. Like the fact, for example, that you will soon be able to hook up your like Intel wireless adapter to it makes it an awesome headset. But they can't undersell with the price. They like this shows that they simply also can't compete with these other behemoths, and that's something that the consumer doesn't care about in the end. But like you say, it is a shame, and the shame is for us as consumers in the end, because like it's not good having Oculus just dominate the VR space. Like it's not good for VR, I don't think.
We still have PlayStation. PlayStation is still
of course, yeah, of course. Like Oculus and PlayStation killing it right now, and but even those two, it's still not good to have just two. You want more, and because the more players in the market space, it drives prices, it drives competition, it drives innovation, and that's really what we need. And also games being funded as well. Like that's what we need as well, of course.
And again, it shows a little bit that the strategy that Oculus has been adopting, which PlayStation has been doing for like as long as the headset exists, it's like they're focused on content. Focus on content first, bring great titles to VR, make the awareness around the headsets. That's the kind of strategy that we have not really been seeing from HTC because they're more like a hardware company.
But we don't see that from Valve either, and they own the platform, Steam VR, and that's one of the biggest frustrations with me about the Index is that where are these games? So it's a problem that even big players have in this industry.
So like the thing is, I know that if everything is finally fixed, the price is not going to go down, I'm afraid. But the only thing that could make this headset relevant in that case for that price is if VivePort that you get with the headset, as far as I know, for, I don't know, like 6 months, and they have these killer exclusives on their platform that would make them worth playing. If they have like some kind of Netflix thing going on or HBO, they might be able to get people buying it. But besides
But
that,
at the same time, they'll piss off a lot of consumers because they'll be bringing their exclusive titles to a platform that a lot of people won't be able to access with a different headset.
Correct, and that's what HTC stood against.
No, wait.
You can.
All the headsets work on their platform. You can play with an Oculus Rift S, Vive, everything works. So it's Vive is not linked to their headsets anymore. It's just a platform.
Yeah, and I have to say, like, about VivePort, like, if you're new to VR, VivePort is actually a very attractive platform because you can play all the great back catalog of games that we've already enjoyed over the last 3-4 years because they're all there and they're all free, and you get limited use of them.
Ideologically, I get it, right? The Netflix of VR.
Yeah.
Does it work? Last time I tried it a year or so ago, like there were games I bought on there and I couldn't even play them.
What Zim is describing here, and I can agree, like at the start, had a rough launch. There was nothing interesting playing on there. It's the problem with VivePort right now within the community is that it has a reputation problem.
Yeah.
It's not bad anymore. But people are like, oh, VivePort, yeah, I heard of that, but I don't know about that. But if you try it now, you would be surprised for sure.
But this is where I think, you know, if you're a VR enthusiast, you've already invested in one ecosystem or the other, whether it be Oculus or Steam VR.
Yeah.
But I'm the same from a newcomer's perspective. Like, VivePort is actually quite attractive because you get to play everything at a very, very small price. Yeah. And it's infinite now. Like, it's infinite.
Mm-hmm. But from a developer perspective, I've heard a lot of developers that they weren't really pleased with the revenue model.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course, there's something else.
That's also an issue that needs to be addressed. And
well, I think right now,
but it's not everything. It's not everything that you can play on that platform. There's a large catalog. Well, you're not touching any of the Oculus stuff, right? So.
Yeah, I think right now HTC has the most potential in the let's say software market than really with hardware. What I do think we're going to see is that this Vive Cosmos is going to get used in arcades for sure. But besides that, I don't think a consumer should, get their hands on one now. And I don't think they have the money either.
Arcades with the hinge? Because like when you have moving parts, it leads to things breaking. So I'm not seeing the arcade side. I would, if I was an arcade owner, I'd rather go for a Vive Pro than a Cosmos.
Well, I did ask them about it. Said that it was ready for arcades. If they say so, then we'll soon see what that means.
Yeah.
So just to quickly touch on the sort of price point. And by the way, if you've got any questions about the Cosmos, like now's a good time. Just while I sort of wrap this one up about price. The price point was obviously $699. Obviously the Quest and Rift S are both $399. Obviously with Quest now offering PC support, it's a very attractive, offers very good value for money headset. And then you've got the high end, which is Index, which is like $1,000. But if you already own like the base stations from an original Vive, if you're moving, if you want an upgrade, like the Index and the controllers are only $50 or pounds more than the Cosmos is, and that's really the way I would go. But you're right. The problem is with the price point is that it doesn't offer anything unique to justify that price point. If it had the mobile tethering that they originally teased, then I think it would be compelling because it would offer itself something unique that no one else can do, but it doesn't. And I think that is the biggest problem.
Can
it's
you
just
rerun
a very average headset.
That price point again, Mike? So what you were suggesting was if you already had, let's say, an OG Vive and you want to upgrade, and you've heard, I had someone contact me for the same reason. They said, like, Cosmos, I've heard it's the best display, yada, yada. But actually, uniformly, I've seen across creators say, avoid it right now. Don't go for this headset. What was the price for the headset plus Index controllers?
$750.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And really, although on paper this has a better display, the lenses in the Index are better and they offer a wider field of view. Because
they ratchet into your face in that lovely
they're slightly canted. Yeah.
So Mike, like let's say if you could, like you were work for HTC and you could put a price on this headset, how much do you think this would have had? Should it be this like this? It's kind of hard because as I said before, like Rift S and also Quest are getting sold for a price that
Less
they
than
are not really
manufactured.
getting made for. They would have been in a
Subsidized.
higher range. But let's say if you could put a price on that production and consumer and.
So this is the thing. Even if this headset was $399, I think they would still struggle. And really, the only selling point for this would be the high resolution and the manual IPD adjustment from a consumer's perspective for me, and that would be the benefits over Rift S. Obviously, if everything else worked, you got to consider that as well. But the problem is, like you say, like Oculus, the amount of money that they're subsidizing these headsets for to make VR work,
it's hard to compete.
You just can't. You know, basically they're selling the headsets at a loss.
What they're doing, all the money for R&D is just free. They don't charge for that. HTC can't do that. Simply can't.
I look forward to Rowdy's video on this, by the way. If it turns out super positive, well.
By the way, besides of like the rocky launch and all the problems it has right now, I think something that it suffered from as well is that it had no backbone. Again, I was talking about the marketing for weeks on our podcast, and you could see there was no one really cared. I checked Reddit. Vive Cosmos wasn't like #1 trending thing they were talking about. Even Mike's impressions video, they didn't even post it there. Well, usually, like straight away, someone's like, "Okay, we should, put it on there because this is what we got to talk about." But I think the majority of the VR community didn't even knew it launched this week. So what about the consumers then? I don't think many people do either. And HTC did such a bad job at advertising this headset. They should have started way earlier. They should have started this. Yeah. Even that, they kind of knew what was going to happen. But it's a shame. You can see that it failed on all sides, and that hurts it. And I don't know if it will make a comeback.
In a way, I just wish, like maybe 2 months ago, they had reached out to me and said, "Look, can you just test this for us behind the scenes under NDA?" I would have given them all this feedback, and maybe they would have had a chance to fix some of it. I don't know. Sometimes, like, I think they're just so caught up in their own bubble. Everyone's just saying it's the greatest thing ever, whereas no one's really telling them how it is. And I think that's unfortunate.
It's very strange because if you look at their Twitter account, it's all positive things about Vive Cosmos. Well, apparently, I mean, I haven't tried it myself yet, so everything I'm saying here is based on opinions that I'm seeing from other people.
Exactly.
But what I'm seeing online is just major problems with tracking, problems with the quality control of the hinge, problems with the Vive board, problems with supported titles. The controllers, the battery life, nobody knows anything.
They made this one post.
They
made this one post about that they said like, oh, we're in the dark or the light or something. But I was like, that's the wrong way to kind of approach your audience, because there are these major problems. They spend a lot of money, so you should take your customer serious. And joking on your Twitter
about it. I
was like, that's a no-go. That's not cool. But as you said, like, testing is very important. And what I was surprised of is that they had a few press outlets tested a week up front. We had to kind of do it on launch, and I didn't see many of them reporting this at all, or even maybe giving the feedback to HTC. I was surprised that some people were kind of leaving the truth in the middle or something. I don't know.
I was surprised that we certainly didn't hear more about the compatibility issues with Steam VR. But then again, like people like Tested, I think they got to demo it in like a demo environment like you did at HTC's office. So maybe it was more difficult for them to choose what they wanted to play. But certainly I know that other outlets had it longer and didn't highlight the compatibility issues. But I know that Ben Lang, obviously, he said, I have to delay this review because it's just not ready right now.
It felt like you were the only one, Mike, that broke the news in terms of like, okay, this is the complete package. This is what you can expect. This is what's going on at this moment. And I didn't see anyone else really get into that. But again, as I said, a lot of people also don't care. For a website right now, I think, covering the Vive Cosmos, it's not doing much because it has no leverage at all. Even for us content creators, usually, even playing with the Valve Index, the Oculus Quest, these are like these famous headsets within the community, and people like to watch them because they're in the title. But with Vive Cosmos, I feel like no one is really into it. Or
has there actually ever been an official statement saying that the entire mobile kind of thing, like the mobile phone thing, that is not a part of it anymore, or is it just going to be quiet about it? And I hope people
no. So I was at their office. I did ask them about it. Said like, okay, so at CES you were hinting this. They said something like, that was a decision by our partners.
But
I don't know what that means.
Statement, because you still probably find it online.
Well, we still need official statements on the battery life, on how the the updates are going at the moment. I don't see them telling people like, hey, there's a new patch out, we're fixing this. They're not even showing they are trying. Well, they are behind the scenes, but it's good to also say that on social media. You need to communicate with your consumers, and right now it's like HTC here, consumers are there, but there's no middleman. There's no one. They're not talking to each other. It's like,
yeah, I totally agree. And like, don't get me wrong. Like, I always appreciate, hardware companies selling stuff out for free. It's always a privilege. But we have to be honest, because you can't be fake or sort of like lie about these things, because people are going to call you out about it, and it's our reputations that are on the line if we did so. So to not give you the feedback as it is would be a disservice to you guys and girls. And we always appreciate your support. So if you've got any questions, now's a good time to ask any questions you got about the HTC Vive Cosmos. But of course, all this feedback, not only did I do it in my video, but I also sent it back to HTC as well. So hopefully they can resolve it. And like I said, I will give it another chance in a couple of weeks once I've given them enough time to maybe resolve some of these issues. But it's just a shame. I think more than anything else, it's a shame for us. It's a shame for the community.
Yeah.
It doesn't help anyone that a bad headset launches. So that's the state we're in, unfortunately, right now. That is the Cosmos.
Bam.
So let's wrap this one up then, because we've been going on again for just over 2 hours. Regardless of how much we try, it's like 2 hours is the benchmark.
But it's
now,
fun.
so
It's fun. That's why.
of course it's fun. We're always having fun.
In chat, they were saying that your beard grew an additional 2 millimeters over the course of this podcast.
If you go back to the beginning, you see Mike.
I slowly age. Yeah, exactly. So I'll recap that this is a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show, live streamed every Saturday on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitch. You can catch the show in VR, which is awesome. Watching it using a big screen TV, chat with other people in the room. Really, really cool. Really cool that it's there. The show goes live at 7 p.m. in Europe, 6 p.m. in the UK, and 12 midday in Central US. You can also check out the audio version, which we work really hard on to deliver the best audio quality, and that's available on iTunes, SoundCloud, Anchor, and Spotify.
And also, slam a like on this stream. Plus, I love my jersey. Thank you so much for Vivian and the community.
Yeah, awesome bunch. It was great to see them at OC and hang out with them. Any decent questions in the chat? It could be about Cosmos, could be about anything.
We got one from Twitch. OneCom is asking, are there any hand tracking demo apps or support?
On Cosmos?
No, I assume on.
Oh yeah, that's something you didn't really mention, right? Like the see-through mode does have the potential to...
Yeah, they teased it just before the Cosmos launched, that they had this kind of hand tracking technology using the cameras similar to sort of Leap Motion, but that wasn't part of the release or any sort of demos that we've seen. So it does have potential, and that could be something that sways it one way or another, maybe.
The Focus has it already, so they could use that and implement it.
And I know Rift S owners were disappointed that they didn't get hand tracking, so
yeah, that's a whole other story.
It could be a feature.
Is anybody happy in this industry?
I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. Right now, we don't have a perfect headset. It doesn't exist on the market. The Quest is probably the closest thing we've got to a perfect headset, but that has its trade-offs as well. So, right now there isn't. It depends on your use cases, really, what headset we would recommend for you. And that's the difficulty.
The Quest, the Quest for me is like almost like the Ewok that pokes all these other big headsets, because the Quest is kind of like this little one is poking all these stormtroopers right now with its spear, trying to kind of,
It's so weird though. You've got like Quest on this little like rocky cliff with some erosion now happening. You've got the Rift S that's just sitting there kind of doing its dust gathering while it's not getting the attention from its parents it needs. Index seems to be quietly in the corner while they're silently creeping in thumb updates and other physical things. And then Quest, of course, launches and unfortunately
fell off the cliff.
And then we have Labo VR that lets kids develop their own games. So I think we also have seen a lot of positive vibes here. This is another step for the industry. It evolves. This is live. The Vive Cosmos evolving, and
it's like that graph they always show on like those Oculus kind of things. And then
this was kind of like
Uncanny Valley.
Uncanny Valley.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing, of course, I've said it many times before, is we just need games now. You know, we got some good games coming soon. Asgard's Wrath next week. Very much looking forward to that. Stormland on the horizon, Boneworks, all these games. So hopefully,
Project 4.
Hold on, right?
These are the ones that are going to hold up the industry.
The fork that I'm really interested in now, because we've had that split off between HTC and Valve. Valve's doing their own, if Valve titles drop in Q4, if they were to, they will absolutely steal a big piece of that market, and Cosmos will just be dusted with that.
Yeah,
people would be running to indexes.
But in terms of content, I think we've highlighted that in the past couple of episodes as well. The quality of the content has improved
dramatically. Yeah, if you're not in VR yet, you need to start thinking about it.
That's why I can't.
Coming out.
Yeah. That's why I can't wait to talk more on next week's show.
Next week.
You might be guessing why, but we can talk about more on next week's show. But it's a very exciting episode to talk about things.
I do think what it comes down to after this rough show, this interesting show, this spicy show, that I think we should be very happy that everyone in the industry is trying. And if that's a developer, if that's a publisher, or someone making a headset, or the esports team, building up there. There's so many exciting things happening, and after Connect, it feels like you're fighting for virtual reality. We're building it brick for brick. Sometimes we have this storm going on, and a part of this structure we already built has fallen off, but then we start again. And I think it if you look at last year and the year before, you're like, whoa, dang, what time flies, what has improved, and it's crazy. So I think this is, this has been an interesting year so far, but it's, it's good to be in this already. Right now. It's
100%. It's only going to get more interesting from here as well. And like you said, at Oculus Connect,
I thought it was already quite interesting, but it surprised me every time.
Yeah,
wow.
I think it was just great to meet all the developers, that we've known and loved over the years, and shake their hands and just thank them for being pioneers in the industry, because they're the ones that are really pushing it right now. Without them, we would just have headsets without the content. So it was great to meet them.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to round this one up. Hope you guys and girls have enjoyed this one. Let us know if you did. We'd always like to know your feedback. Have a great week in VR. We're going to be back next week with an interesting episode for you, for sure. Until then, have a great week in VR and take care. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.